63. The Yellow Flash is reborn. Author's note, I made a mistake last chapter and I am willing to own up to it. A bunch of you let me know that Hiraishin no Jutsu does not include smoke. Okay, my mistake. I will go back and edit the last chapter and in the future the jutsu will be without smoke. Oh, by the way, I was amazed at how many of you commented that you were hoping Jiraiya really would get skinned and dumped in salt. Damn, you people really are a bloodthirsty and evil bunch, huh? Please don't ever change. XXXXXXXXXXX. Hinata hurried back into the Namikaze mansion. She had been getting ready for bed when Kushina had called. As soon as she entered, she saw a smiling Kushina standing by the kitchen door. So Gamakichi finally came. Hinata asked eagerly, did Naruto-kun write me a letter? Kushina shook her head but her smile remained firmly in place. No, but my son sent a gift instead. One I know you are going to like. A gift? Hinata asked. But tell me something, Hinata-chan, what would you have liked most? She shrugged. I would love anything he sent me. The only thing I truly want is for Naruto-kun to be here. Cool, I got you the right gift. The kitchen door swung open. There smiling at her was Naruto. Hinata gasped. Naruto-kun. She leapt and glomped onto him. Naruto-kun, you're home. He laughed. It felt so good to have his beautiful Hinata-chan back in his arms again. And he hadn't missed the fact that in their time apart she had developed some. Yeah, I'm home, Hinata-chan. He squeezed her tight. I'm home. She turned her face up and he brought his lips down to meet hers. It was an eager kiss, a welcoming kiss. For both of them it was a reminder of what they'd had and a welcome preview of what the two of them would share together. Sighing happily, she pressed her face into the side of his neck. I am so happy, Naruto-kun, I've missed you so much. He squeezed her just a little bit tighter. I missed you too, my sweet Hinata-chan. She looked up at him with her pale eyes filled with love. Please don't ever leave me again. His smile faded just a little. You know I can't promise you that, Hinata-chan, being a ninja I can't always choose. But I'll promise to never leave you again by choice. It wasn't what she'd wanted, but she nodded, she understood and it would do. She leaned forward and they began to kiss again. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina quietly left to give the reunited couple some privacy. She decided she could give them one night without any protective surveillance. XXXXXXXXXX. There was a knock on her door. Surprised, she hurried to answer it, knowing who was there. Haku, what are you doing here? He smiled at her. You left your party so early, I wanted to just make sure everything was all right. Tayuya gave him a smile. I'm fine, do you want to come in? Nodding, he entered her apartment. He actually visited her often, they spent a great deal of time together, as friends. Do you want some tea? Yes please. Haku sat down on the couch as he usually did while she headed into the kitchen. Did you like your party? She filled a kettle with water and tossed in a tea bag. It wasn't too bad, I guess. I certainly made out like a bandit. She put the kettle on the stove. Thank you for buying me a new flute, I love it. Why did you throw Kiba's present at him? Because he's AF hash and king pervert who thinks he's going to get me and he's never gonna. She sat down next to Haku. Is he really that bad? Haku asked. I think Kiba is a good guy. You would, he's not trying to sleep with you. Haku grinned. If he were, I'd take it as a compliment. Tayuya laughed and shook her head. I am going to tell him you said that. He smiled and looked closely at her. Are you all right? She nodded. Never better. Then why did you leave so soon? She shrugged. You know me, I'm not exactly a party girl. I like this better. He nodded. One of the reasons he came over so often was because he knew how much she enjoyed it. He enjoyed it too. He just wished his spending time with her did not bother Gabriella as much as it did. They talked for a bit until the kettle began to whistle. Tayuya got up and poured them each a cup. As he drank some and placed his cup back down. You know, there's something I wanted to ask you. What? What did you wish for? Haku looked at her intently. You looked like you were really thinking about it before you blew out the candles. She shook her head. If I tell you it won't come true. She sighed a bit sadly. Not that I think it will come true anyway. Whatever your wish is, I would like to help you get it. She looked at him and her face began to gain some color. Do you really mean that? If you could help me get my wish, would you really help, or are you just saying that? He looked at her in surprise. Tayuya, we are not only teammates but really close friends. If I can help you get something you really want, then I would. She looked away from him and instead stared at the cup she was holding. She hesitated for a bit before mumbling something in a small voice. I'm sorry, what did you say? Her hands were shaking a bit as she set her cup down on the table. Inside, her heart was pounding like mad. She was scared. She took a deep breath and quietly repeated what she had said. My wish was for you to kiss me. XXXXXXXXXX. Under a night sky, the two of them were kissing. They were sitting on their favorite bench surrounded by roses. As they pulled apart just a bit, Naruto let a single hand run along her outer thigh. The feel of his touch made her shiver just a bit and she pressed herself just a little more against his strong muscled body. You're so beautiful, Hinata-chan. He let his hand rest there on her thigh as he spoke teasingly in her ear. You've always been beautiful, but now you've become a woman. She could feel her heart pounding within her and knew her face had to be completely red. Arigato Naruto-kun, you've gotten much more handsome. You really look like a man. She paused but decided to go ahead. Naruto-kun, there was something I wanted to talk to you about. It's something I didn't want to put in a letter. What is it, Hinata-chan? He asked curiously. Well, you know your uncle has been allowed to marry 3 wives in order to repopulate his clan. Yeah, I know, he actually shuddered a bit. I still can't believe that Anko is my aunt now. Hinata nodded and looked down. Well, the fact is that you're in the same position with your clan. She took a deep breath. Do you, think you might want to, Hinata-chan, he whispered and she stopped. She looked up and focused completely on those perfect blue eyes and gentle smile. Are you worried I might want to have more than one wife? She nodded. I would understand if. Whatever she was about to say, she never got the chance as he leaned in and cut her off with a kiss. Hinata-chan, he said tenderly. You're my only one. I love only you and you're the only one I want to have a family with and grow old with. I love you too, Naruto-kun, with all my heart. Hinata answered with relief. He grinned at her and they began to kiss. For him there could never be anyone else but her. Blissful and content she welcomed him home. For both of them their hearts were now whole again. XXXXXXXXXX. You want me to kiss you? Hiku said nervously. That's right, that's what I wished for. To have you kiss me just once the way you do her. Tayuya, you know I care about you, but it would be wrong. She looked away from him feeling hurt and stupid. Yeah, I know. Why the hell would you want to kiss someone as plain and foul-mouthed as me when you have your perfect little princess? Why did I and King tell him? What the and K was I thinking? Like he would ever really wanna kiss me. Tayuya, I've told you before that she's not a princess. She's had a lot of problems she's had to deal with. Yeah, I'm sure her life has been really and Kin brutal. Much harder than mine or yours. He always defended her. Tayuya's heart sank as she knew there was no contest. Gabriella had his love and there was no way she could even compete. Listen, just forget it. It's not like I ever thought it would really happen. There was an awkward silence between them as they both just sat there. Hiku eyeing her carefully while she kept her eyes locked on the cooling tea in front of her. Was that truly your wish? Hiku asked quietly. Yeah, it was. Very well. She felt his hand gently touch her cheek. She looked over to him and saw him slowly leaning over towards her. What are you doing? She said in a husky whisper as his face drew near hers. I said I would help you get your wish, and I will. He kissed her. She shut her eyes and drank in the warmth and softness of his lips. It was a short kiss but a real one. It seemed to last forever, but was still over too soon. As he slowly released the pressure and pulled away, she opened her eyes to look at him. His eyes were tender but she could see the trace of guilt. His hand stroked her cheek and withdrew. Happy birthday. He got up from the couch. I should go now. She quickly stood as well. Reaching out, she took hold of both his hands. You don't have to go. You can just stay and talk if you want. Or anything else you might want to do. He shook his head and carefully withdrew his hands. I don't think that would be wise. He took a deep breath. Tayuya, I care for you very much, but only as a friend and teammate. But I love Gabriella, even with the obstacles we face, my heart is hers. What I did just now was to give you your wish, but my heart is still hers. Tayuya nodded. I understand, she said quietly. Don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble with her and I'll keep our kiss a secret if that's you want. Thank you, Tayuya, you are a very dear friend and precious person. He quietly left. Left alone, she headed off to bed with a slight smile on her lips. She was still only a friend to him, but he had still kissed her. I guess some wishes really do come true. XXXXXXXXXXX. Early the following morning, Kushina and Naruto had gone to meet with Tsunade. Not surprisingly, Naruto was eager to relate how he had managed to teleport across 1400 miles using his father's signature jutsu. So Jiraiya, Grand Uncle Seishu, and Yamato will be back in about a week. Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. I didn't want to wait and I wanted to make a big impression. Tsunade quirked an eyebrow. You mean like when you took on half of Iwa all by yourself? Naruto looked embarrassed. It wasn't half of Iwa, it was only a couple hundred or so Anbu. Tsunade and Kushina shared a look. Naruto, Tsunade tried to explain. Do you understand that when you go out of your way to show off your power, all that you're really doing is making yourself a bigger target? She took out a simple book and handed it to him. That is a copy of the Iwa Bingo book. You're listed on page 22, take a look. He eagerly flipped to the aforementioned page. He immediately looked disappointed. Ah man, they don't have a very good picture of me. He thought of something. Hey, do you think if I sent them a picture? No, both women said at once. Naruto, his mother scolded. You are not supposed to try and help your enemies identify you. Let's try and keep on track. Tsunade said. Naruto, what is listed under your entry? He quickly read off the highlights. Only son of Namikaze Minato, also known as the Yellow Flash of Konoha, Jinchuriki container of the nine-tailed Kyuubi demon, killed 300 Suna ninjas during the Battle of Konoha including the Case Cage, Wind type, specialty jutsus include Cage Bushin, Rasengan, and Kamikaze, 5th level Blade Master, has a 15 million Ryu bounty to be paid if killed or captured. His smile suddenly got wider and his voice was excited. An S-ranked opponent, he is extraordinarily dangerous. All Iwa ninjas are ordered to retreat on sight. He handed the book back. That's great. They have a retreat on sight order for me just like they did for my dad. Tsunade shook her head. Naruto, you are completely missing the point. All your enemies understand just how dangerous you are. That means that when they come after you, and they are going to be just that much more cautious and better prepared. But Godmother, how can I become Hokage without making a name for myself? I have to be recognized as the best ninja in this village. I'm not going to do that without the other villages knowing who I am too. Tsunade sighed. That's true, Naruto, but there's a difference between earning a well-deserved reputation and taking stupid risks. Seeing his stubborn look, she sighed. Naruto hated looking weak. That was one aspect of being a ninja he'd never really embraced. Alright, we'll talk more about this another day. But I have in mind a very special demonstration that will involve you showing off your skills in a productive manner. She sent her godson a very eager smile. How would you like to show off your new jutsu to a few people? From his smile she knew she wouldn't have to ask twice. XXXXXXXXXX. Training Ground 17 had been closed off and was secured by several squads of Anbu. A very special demonstration was about to take place. In a thick forest, 15 ninjas each picked up a lily and quickly hid themselves. Their instructions had been clear. They were to disguise their presence to the best of their ability while remaining within the training ground and holding on to one of the lilies. A couple used genjutsu while most were satisfied in taking expert cover within tree branches or bushes. They were all elite ninja and most skilled at concealing themselves. In a clearing in the very center of the training ground, Tsunade looked at her watch. The 5 minutes she'd given them were up. She turned to her godson with a grin. Show them all what you can do, Naruto. He nodded. That was all the permission he needed. He ran through the complex hand signs. Hiraishin no Jutsu. He blinked away for just a handful of seconds, then appeared again in the exact same spot as if nothing had happened. He opened his hands and the tops of 15 lilies fell to the ground. XXXXXXXXXX. All 15 members of the council were gathered before Tsunade and Naruto. They all still held the stems of the flowers they had taken. Every single one had been cut neatly in an instant while in the hands of a ninja. None of them had seen anything more than a momentary blur. Most of the council members looked stunned, a handful wore smiles. Tsunade put a proud hand on her godson's shoulder. I trust this demonstration was sufficient proof for all of you. Danzo looked absolutely stunned. The yellow flash of Konoha is reborn. He'd spoken quietly, but in the stillness everyone had heard him. Head began to nod. Tsunade nodded happily. If an arch-enemy like Danzo was in awe, this would likely go the way she hoped. Naruto has just completed his extended apprenticeship with Jiraiya and you can see the time was not wasted. He has mastered the legendary Hiraishin no Jutsu, the only ninja other than his father to ever do so. With this extraordinary ability, you will all agree that Naruto is now one of our village's elite shinobi even without use of the Kyuubi's chakra. She paused and was pleased as again most heads nodded. It was time to play her cards. I formally call the question and ask each of you to state your vote. You vote in the middle of a training ground. We should schedule a formal meeting for something so important. Ryuki stated. And give you a chance to scrape up enough votes to block. Oh, I don't think so. As Hokage, I am well within my rights to call for a vote whenever there is a quorum of the council available. All 15 members are present and there is no rule about where a vote may take place. Before Ryuki could object, Kushina spoke up. On behalf of the Namikaze clan, I vote yes. The newest member of the council sent his nephew a wink and a grin. The Uzumaki clan says yes. Shikamaru grinned. Even though it's going to be troublesome, the Nara clan says yes. The Umenka clan says no. Mishio said flatly. Akamichi says yes. There were a few frowns as the traditional Ino Shika-cho unity was nowhere to be seen. Sume barked an easy laugh. Inuzuka says yes, my son would never talk to me again if I said anything else. No. Uchiha Ryuki let the stem fall to the ground. It is only logical. Aburame says yes. Shibi spoke. Danzo nodded. You truly are the strongest now. I say yes. Kaharu opened her mouth as though to argue, but said nothing. She looked at the stem she still held. She let out a weary sigh. Yes. Asuma tossed his cigarette down and crushed it beneath his heel. If my dad were here, he'd be very proud of you, Naruto. Sarutobi says yes. The remaining council members said yes, and just that easy it was finally done. Tsunade had to keep herself from jumping up and down. The Hokage had to have some dignity after all. By a vote of 13-2, we have more than the 2/3 majority required, and thus the resolution is formally passed into law. She turned to her godson and addressed him directly. Namikaze Naruto, it is my wish and the wish of the council that you be formally recognized as my successor. Will you accept this responsibility? It was what he had dreamed of since being a small child. I will, and I promise I will make you proud of me. Naruto, I don't doubt that for a second. Tsunade said joyously. XXXXXXXXXX. As most of the council members approached Naruto to congratulate him, Ryuki quietly departed. It now seemed certain that one day, not immediately but soon, Naruto would become the Rokudaime Hokage. Though things can happen between now and then, he said quietly into himself. 64. A 5-pound bag of salt. Gabriella, please come into my study. She looked at her father a bit nervously. He was using that tone, the one he used whenever he was going to talk to her about something unpleasant. Actually, Dad, I was just about to go. Can we talk about this later? He shook his head. We've put this off long enough. You've had months. But. In my study, please. Yes, father. Gabriella trudged into the study behind her father. Sitting behind his desk, he waited for his daughter to take a seat before beginning. You'll be turning 18 in June, just a couple months away. Yes. She eyed him nervously. He decided to come to the point. We need a decision on who you intend to marry by then. Why? She demanded. Dad, I'm only going to be 18. Most girls don't get married until they're in their 20s. Why am I getting forced into this? Why can't I just make my own decision in my own good time? You already know the answer to that. Because I'm an Uchiha, she grumbled. But her father shook his head. No, because you are ninja and because you are in a clan. Honey, you should understand this perfectly. You never even knew your mother. No matter how skilled we may be, a ninja's life is always uncertain. We are not afforded the luxury of taking our time if we wish to have children. Also, as you are a part of a clan, you bear the additional responsibility of providing future members of the Uchiha clan. Well, now we really come down to it. She took on a stubborn look. This is all about Haku, isn't it? Again, her father shook his head. What this is about is identity and family. The clan needs to know whether after you are married if you will be an Uchiha or a Momochi. Why does it matter? He leaned back in his chair. Tell me something, daughter, who is the clan heir of the Hyuga? Hyuga Hanabi. Yes, but her older sister Hinata was the one originally designated. Now why do you suppose he or she changed the designation? She could see where this was going. Because Hinata was betrothed to Namikaze Naruto. And why was she not permitted to remain clan heir? Gabriella sighed. Because once she is married, she and her children will not be considered Hyuga but Namikaze. True, now what if she had married a ninja who was not a clan member or married a rich merchant or minor noble? Then her husband would likely have changed his name to Hyuga. Hinata would have become heir and her children would have been part of the Hyuga clan. Her father again nodded. So you can see it is not really because you are an Uchiha, but rather that you are a member of a ninja clan. Now you have been given a great deal of leeway in the matter so far. But as an Uchiha and especially as clan heir, you have certain responsibilities that you will not be allowed to put off indefinitely. You need not marry immediately, but the clan requires that you come to some sort of decision by the time you are 18. I am not speaking just on my own behalf, the elders are also insistent in you reaching a decision. What if I refuse to make a decision? What will you do? Throw me out of the clan? Ryuki sighed. Don't be so melodramatic. Do you think you are the first or last clan kunoichi to ever be in this situation? No one wants to expel you, but you will no longer be designated the heir. I know how strong your feelings for Haku are and that they are returned. Have the two of you discussed marriage? She blushed a bit and slowly nodded. He hasn't proposed, but we've talked about it in general. He waited, but she did not go on. And he wishes to form his own clan. She said quietly. I see. And what do you want? I want to be with him. But I also want to be able to change the Uchiha clan for the better. We need to change, Dad. There's a reason for all the things that have gone wrong in the last few years. We need to change our mindset and the way we see ourselves. We need to stop being separate from the rest of the village. Ryuki frowned. Dear, we are separate. We are a special elite of the village. It is important that we not forget that. There is after all a reason for the wall that surrounds the compound. The events surrounding Itachi and Sasuke were tragic, but they don't change the fundamental truth. Now it was Gabriella who shook her head. No, father, what happened to Sasuke and Itachi was a result of our misguided obsession with the Sharingan and with our status as an elite. I am sure that if they had been born into other clans they would have been happier. Her father shrugged, dismissing the idea. Happiness is no part of being a ninja. Those words reminded her of what Itachi had once said to her. Happiness has nothing to do with being a ninja. That is not true, father. Kushina is the strongest and finest kunoichi I have ever met. She is a powerful ninja and truly fierce and terrible when in battle. But she loves and laughs and jokes. She believes that happiness and duty are not exclusive. She is not the only one, most of the other clans feel that way. So you would try and make us like the other clans? Honey, we are Uchiha. Gabriella frowned, which is the same as saying we are special. Tell me, Dad, why was I so unimportant one day and so special the next? Was I really so different just because I got my Sharingan? Dad, can't you see the problem of a clan that turns its back on its members just because they don't activate their Kekkei Genkei? Don't you see the problems caused by having your value as a clan member judged solely by whether or not you have a Sharingan? Gabriella, I am truly sorry that you suffered while waiting to achieve the Sharingan. But achieving the Sharingan is vital, and it is only proper that achieving it be treated as a high priority. Even to the point of making a perfectly good ninja feel worthless just because she hasn't. She stopped and took a deep breath. Father, I disagree with our entire philosophy and want to change it. And the very first thing I'd do as clan head would be to tear down the wall outside our compound. Ryuki gave her a surprised look. Tear down the wall? Honey, do you have any idea the opposition you would face if you tried to do that? It needs to be done whether people oppose it or not, and it would just be the start. Gabriella, you would have a better chance of walking up a waterfall than of changing the Uchiha clan in the way you want. It needs to be done, Dad, and I mean to do it. Well, if you are clan head you can try. But not if you marry into another clan. The choice is yours, daughter. XXXXXXXXXX. At the Namikaze mansion there was a celebration going on to both welcome Naruto home and to honor his appointment as Tsunade's successor. Since he had arrived late the previous night and left early to meet with Tsunade, this was his first meeting with most of his extended family. Kakashi and Kiba had also come by so that they could have a little reunion of Team 7. XXXXXXXXXXX. So you've been apprenticed to Neeson all this time, huh? Naruto asked. Kiba nodded. Yeah, it's been great. We've gone out on a bunch of really tough missions, I've learned to summon his nin dogs, and he taught me a bunch of new jutsus. Hinata had her arm around Naruto's. He has also fallen for someone. Oh really? Naruto grinned. Hey, come on, Hinata-chan, it's not like that at all. Kiba looked as though he wanted to run. So who's the lucky girl? Naruto asked. Tayuya, Kiba muttered. Tayuya, the X-sound ninja who curses like a sailor. That Tayuya. Hey, she doesn't curse that much anymore and she's really changed. Hinata giggled. Coming to her defense, Kiba. Naruto held up his hand. That's all right, I mean if you like her that's fine. So she's your girlfriend? Kiba looked a bit embarrassed. Not exactly. Okay, so you're dating casually? Well, technically we're not actually dating. So you're just close friends? Well, I don't really know if we're that either. Kiba admitted. Naruto just looked at his friend and teammate. So what exactly are you two? Well, I'm sort of trying to get her attention. I keep trying to ask her out but she keeps saying no. So I've decided to keep trying to win her over and be near her whenever I can. Naruto slowly began to smile. He suddenly pointed at his friend. You're Tayuya's fanboy. He laughed. I am not. But the more vehemently Kiba denied it, the more Naruto laughed. XXXXXXXXXX. This is for you. Naruto handed her a handcrafted porcelain doll dressed in a pink kimono. I got it for you in Nagano. Alyssa screeched in delight as she accepted the gift. Arigato Neeson. She gave him a hug. I'm so glad you're home again. Me too. He reached down to return her hug. As he hugged her, he picked her up. Eek. She quickly settled onto his shoulders. Neeson, I'm much too grown up to be riding on your shoulders. Oh really? Naruto grinned at her. Then I guess you're too grown up to want to braid hair. That's different. Will you let me braid your hair, Neeson? Yes, just as soon as everyone has gone home. He laughed at his Emoto's shouts of joy. XXXXXXXXXXX. So you like Tayuya? Kushina smiled as she approached him. It's not like that. Kiba insisted. Kiba, Kushina stated, it's not really a secret. It's been obvious for a while now. I was just wondering, why did she throw your present at you? Well, I think she mad that I got her some sexy panties. Kiba admitted. He saw Kushina's face blanch. What? Kiba, where on earth did you get the idea that panties would be an appropriate gift? Sensei suggested them. Oh, he would. Kushina shook her head and muttered something about perverts. Listen, Kiba, if you want to try and impress a girl, you should try and show her you're interested in something she cares about. Like what? Well, in Tayuya's case, she loves music. Can you sing or play an instrument? I can't sing, but I used to play an instrument when I was younger. I stopped a couple years ago. That's perfect. Why don't you practice with your instrument and then play it outside her window one night? Kiba looked at her. Isn't that sort of weak? No, it's romantic. Every girl dreams about being serenaded. If you do it, then I guarantee that she'll definitely notice you. Maybe. XXXXXXXXXX. He saw Anko in the kitchen snacking on some dango. He hadn't really spoke to her yet and so decided to try and welcome her into his family. Hello, Aunt Anko. I was just. His mouth snapped shut as a kunai flew past his head. He could feel a slight burn where it had just cut his cheek and a little bit of blood began to leak out. Hi there, Anko said in a chipper voice and with a smile. First rule, don't call me aunt, it makes me feel old. Second. As if materializing, Kushina appeared behind Anko and grabbed the back of her head, pulled it back as she placed a kunai to her throat. Second rule, Kushina spoke with anger in her voice. Don't ever attack my son again or draw his blood. I've killed people for a lot less than that. She let go and put away her kunai. Anko grinned, not seeming to be bothered in the least. Wow, and I thought I was a scary bitch. She turned to Naruto. It's nice to see you again, Naruto. She hummed as she exited the kitchen. Naruto wiped the blood off his cheek. She scares me. Kushina nodded. She scares everyone, dear. XXXXXXXXXX. You doing okay? Haku. His friend nodded. Welcome back home, Naruto, and congratulations on being named successor. Thanks, it's a dream come true. So why are you hanging out by yourself? Well, I have been pondering something. He was silent for just a bit. Do you think it would be selfish of me to want to found my own clan? Are you kidding? Of course not. I think it would be great. Naruto said. Wait, why don't you look happy? Because there are issues I have to consider. Naruto. Haku paused and then asked. What would you have done if Hinata had refused to marry you unless you joined her clan? Hinata would never have done that. Very well, what would you have done if Hiashi-san had made it a condition to marrying her? Naruto had never once considered that, so he stopped to give the question some real thought. I think, he answered slowly, that if I had a brother or someone else to carry on the family name, I would agree. I love her that much. But being the only Namikaze, I couldn't let the clan die with me. If I did that, I would be failing not just my father but all my ancestors who were Namikaze as well. I couldn't let that happen. Not even for Hinata. I'm not saying it would be an easy choice or something I'd want to do. Naruto confirmed. I know it would break my heart. But I couldn't let my clan die, not even for her. As much as I love her, for a ninja sometimes duty must come before all else, even love. It's like when Godmother says she's acting as the Hokage when she puts the people she loves in danger for the sake of her duty. Haku slowly nodded. Thank you, Naruto, that helps some. XXXXXXXXXX. 1 week later. Tsunade, a very nervous Jiraiya asked. Why are we meeting in Anbu headquarters? Tsunade gave him a smile that only made him more nervous. Well, you know, when I found out you had taken my godson into a ninja village filled with people who hate him and would kill him on sight, I was very angry with you. Now Suandai can explain. The Hokage didn't miss a beat. But then of course he did learn a great deal while traveling with you, and I'm willing to admit his becoming successor is largely due to your help. Jiraiya let out a relieved sigh. So you're not mad at me anymore, right? Suand smiled and showed all her teeth. Well, now I wouldn't say that. She took something out and placed it on the table in the room. What is the 5-pound bag of salt for? Just be glad it's not a barrel. Huh. Tsunade produced his scalpel. Now hold out your right arm and we'll get started. Fortunately for all of Konoha, his screams could not be heard through the thick walls. XXXXXXXXXX. Karen leaned back in the couch and had another glass of champagne. It had taken almost 3 more years of additional research and effort, but the day had finally come. As she relaxed, there was a knock on the door to her penthouse. May I come in? A voice called to her. Of course, Karen shouted. It's not locked. The door opened and in strolled a tall, broad-shouldered man with short cropped blonde hair. He wore well-shined plate armor with a large crest with a golden hawk in flight. I just wanted to inform you in person that the invitations have been sent out to our 5 prospective clients. Some or all of them should have their representatives here within 2 weeks. Karen nodded pleased. Thank you, Lord Taka. How much do you think we will make? For what you are selling, the bidding will begin at 100 million ryu, and where it will end I can only guess. After all, you are selling the secrets of Orochimaru. He looked at her with an amused grin. You realize, of course, that whoever gains this knowledge will become far more powerful. You are very likely to tip the balance of power in the ninja lands. She shrugged and had another sip of champagne. Just so long as I get to be rich, I don't really care. 65. An invitation from Lord Taka. Say, Naruto, now that you've been designated my successor, how would you like to get a taste of what being Hokage is like? Tsunade asked with an innocent look on her face. Really? Naruto answered excitedly. Tsunade nodded, careful not to smile too broadly. Oh, absolutely. Now that you are officially recognized as my successor, I'm permitted to train you and get you some experience in the position. Why, as successor, you're even allowed to perform as an acting Hokage for certain tasks. Naruto's eyes lit up. He saw himself wearing the Hokage robe, speaking to a room filled with clan heads. Their attention wrapped around his every word. That would be wonderful, Godmother, thank you so much. Heh heh heh. Don't mention it, Naruto. So why don't you come by the tower at 7 a.m. and we'll get started? I'll be there. XXXXXXXXXX. Tayuya was lying on her couch just relaxing and listening to some jazz. It had been a weird day. She'd spent a couple hours with her team on a minor C rank. The mission itself had been nothing of note. What had made it odd was the way that Haku and Gabriella had been relating to each other. Their usual close bond had been completely missing today. When they had talked, it had been strained, and most surprising of all, she couldn't remember them holding hands even once. Something was going on between those two. As she lay there replaying the day's events and listening to the smooth music, her peace of mind was disturbed by a loud series of crashes and booms. Not too much later, she heard a bunch of shouts from her neighbors. What the hell are you doing? I'm calling the military police. People are trying to get some rest here. Take your big dog and get out of here. Big dog. Oh no, it couldn't be. She got up from her couch and went over to her window. Opening it, she stuck her head out to look down into the courtyard. Oh, you have got to be and king kidding me. There in the courtyard was Kiba sitting on the back of Akamaru. Somehow or other he had managed to set up an entire drum kit, including cymbals, attached to a saddle. He was playing a rendition of what she thought was a love song on his drums. He was actually not too bad, but the effect of the romantic tune was sort of lost in the loud bams and smacks of the drum and repeated crash of the cymbals. Kiba, Tayuya shouted down at him. What the hell are you doing? Kiba stopped and smiled up at her. Hey Tayuya, I've come to serenade you. What? I've come to serenade you, he repeated. Tayuya suddenly noticed glares from her many neighbors being turned in her direction. Well, don't. Will you go out with me? He called up. No, I will not and king go out with you. Now get out of here and stop bothering me. With a big grin, he began to hit the drums again. What the and K are you doing? I'm going to keep serenading you until you agree to go out on a date with me. A dark look crossed her face. Like hell you are. She went back inside for a minute and got some of her ninja gear together. Returning to the window, she tossed some kunai. Kiba noticed some pieces of paper attached to them. Crap. Move Akamaru. Akamaru leapt away just in time to avoid the explosive notes. Don't come back, you flea-bitten mutt, and take your dog with you. Even as he was fleeing on Akamaru's back, Kiba was laughing. You're beautiful when you're angry, he shouted back. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto arrived at the tower well before 7 and was eager for his first real taste of the duty of being a Hokage. Oh my Naruto, Tsunade said encouragingly as they met. Don't you look excited? Well, let's get to my office. Are you really going to let me be the acting Hokage, Hokage-sama? Tsunade nodded with a grand smile. Oh, absolutely. They entered her office. Would you like to sit behind my desk? Sure. He sat down in her chair. This wasn't the first time. She let him there a few times when he was little and pretend. But this was different. This time he had a legitimate right to be sitting there. Swinging the chair around, he looked out the large window upon the village of Konoha. What do you think? Tsunade asked with a hint of amusement. He smiled at her, absolutely content. It's a nice chair and I like the view. Glad you approve. The office door opened. Ah, perfect timing. A frowning Shizune entered. She was holding a stack of papers in her hands that climbed all the way to her chin. Maneuvering expertly, she managed to get them to the desk without tripping. Here are the morning reports that require the Hokage's signature and seal. You also have a full set of appointments, so you'll want to get this all done by noon or you won't have time for lunch. And no slacking off, Lady Tsunade. You're already a week behind on your paperwork. Tsunade smiled at her faithful assistant. Oh, I'm sorry Shizune, but today Naruto will be acting as my stand-in. He'll be acting Hokage for the day. Naruto looked nervously at the stack of papers that had been set on the desk. What are all these? He asked nervously. Shizune sent Tsunade a hard look. You are not trying to lay all your work off on Naruto, are you? I'm just trying to get him a little experience. She went to the side of the desk and opened the top drawer. She pulled out a small rubber stamp and ink pad. Now Naruto, all these have been sent here to receive your signature and stamp top, make them official. Shizune will answer all your questions and show you what to do. I'll see you later. Where are you going? Naruto asked. Tsunade laughed. Probably back to bed. It has been a while since I had a day off. I'll come back at 7 when you get done for the day. If there's an emergency, Shizune will know how to contact me. But only if there's an emergency. With that, she departed. Shizune sighed and shook her head. I'm sorry about this, Naruto, but we really do need all these papers to be approved by the Hokage before they can be put into effect. He was staring at the stack of papers. I really have to go through all theses. There are 5 more stacks. Shizune stated, and as I said, you have appointments in the afternoon, so really you need to get them done this morning. I see. Morosely, he took the top sheet from the stack and grabbed a pen. Do you suppose there's any chance some huge disaster will take place requiring the Hokage to risk his life for the village? I doubt it, but we can always hope. Sighing, he stamped the first report and put it into the out box. Well, I always said I'd sacrifice myself for the village. XXXXXXXXXX. 12:30. The fire daimyo's wife was sitting across from him. They were both sipping tea and having cookies. Shizune had explained to him that a part of the Hokage's duty was to maintain good terms with local and foreign dignitaries. It's wonderful that you're going to be the next Hokage. I can still remember what a polite young man you were all those times you brought back my sweet little Tora to me. I just know you'll do a fine job. You know, I remember when your father was the Hokage, he was a very polite boy too and always filled with good humor. Of course Sarutobi was also a fine Hokage too, don't get me wrong. He was a bit more formal, but very polite. You know, I remember. Naruto grinned and nodded at the appropriate points and spoke a total of perhaps a dozen words. XXXXXXXXXXX. 2:00. I want a real mission. I am tired of D ranks. Konohamaru squatted on the floor and crossed his arms over his chest. A flustered Ebisu waved his arms about in embarrassment. Please forgive my honorable student's disgraceful behavior, Naruto-sama. Konohamaru, stop this. Haruka barked. You know you're still not experienced enough for anything above D ranks. Naruto shook his head and tried to keep a severe look on his face. Oh really, and just why do you deserve something above D rank? Because me and my team have awesome ninja skills and can handle a real mission. Konohamaru declared. Naruto grinned. You really think you have great ninja skills? Of course we do. Naruto nodded. Alright, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you and your team test. If you pass it, I'll assign you a C rank mission. But if you fail, you're not allowed to complain or ask for another higher rank mission for at least a month. Deal. It's a deal. Konohamaru jumped to his feet and both his teammates looked excited. What's the test? Naruto pulled out his watch. You must go to Ikiraku's and return here with 5 bowls of miso ramen within 10 minutes starting now. With a blur, 3 genin raced out the meeting room. Ebisu, Shizune, and Iruka were all staring at him. What? Naruto asked innocently. Naruto, what are you thinking? Iruka demanded. I'm thinking I skipped lunch and that cookies and tea aren't enough to fill me up. But what happens if they get back here in time? Shizune asked. Relax, he pulled out a sheet of paper that had been in front of him. There's a C rank to escort a caravan with building supplies to a town just about 50 miles from here. It's as basic and simple a C rank as you'll ever find. And they've done 30 D ranks, they're ready. XXXXXXXXXX. 3:30. Well, it's really troublesome, but I'm here to give my monthly progress report on the Chunin exams. Shikamaru noted lazily. Are we hosting those again? Naruto asked. Shikamaru nodded. In just another month and a half. Well, hopefully these will go a little smoother than the last ones. That's not exactly setting the bar very high. Naruto shrugged. As long as we don't get invaded again, I'll be happy. So how are you and Temari? Shikamaru quirked an eyebrow. Don't you want to hear about the preparations for the exams? Are there any major problems? No. Fine then, that's all I need to hear. So how are you and Temari? Shikamaru smirked a bit. She is the most troublesome woman I have ever known and she manages to constantly turn my life upside down almost on a whim. Naruto grinned. Sounds like you're in love. Shikamaru sighed. I'm afraid so. XXXXXXXXXX. 6:30. Naruto, what are you doing here? As was his habit, Jiraiya leapt in through the window. Oh, hey pervy granddad. The Hokage let me spend the day doing her job. Jiraiya grinned. So let me guess, she was way behind on her paperwork and she got you to do it for her. Yeah, Naruto answered a bit wearily. Say, why is your right arm covered in bandages from the wrist to the shoulder? Oh, that's to give the skin grafts a chance to heal. Skin grafts. Did you get wounded? You might say that. Does Godmother know? Oh yeah, she knows, Jiraiya said flatly. By the way, don't ever make her really angry. Okay. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Anyway, I came by here to give her some news. Is it top secret or something only she can hear? Jiraiya thought about it. I'd best give it to her and she can share if she thinks it's a good idea. XXXXXXXXXX. 7:00. Tsunade came back to her office smelling slightly of sake. Well, Naruto, how did you enjoy your first taste of being Hokage? I can honestly say it's not quite what I expected. He shook his head. I managed to get all the paperwork done. So was this a normal day for you? She nodded. It may have been a little heavy on the paperwork side, but otherwise yes. You know, I remember you and the third always complaining about paperwork, but somehow I didn't really think about it. No one ever does. Believe me, when I first took over, it came as a shock how much time I spent chained to my desk. So did you have me stand in for you to let me do all your work for you while you went out drinking? Partially, she answered without feeling guilt. I also wanted you to get a sense of what it was really like to be Hokage. I don't plan on retiring for a few more years yet, but I wanted you to start getting an understanding of what the job really is. 99% of the time this village runs smoothly and you really have nothing of importance to do. It's that 1 other percent where you truly earn your pay. When things do not run smoothly and the land is in crisis, it will be your responsibility to set things right. If you are Hokage, then you must always do what is best for Konoha, even when it means putting the people you love in danger. Like you did during the invasion. She nodded. That's right. Speaking of danger, Jiraiya again popped in through the window. What do you want? She asked with a frown. This is for you. He handed her a sealed envelope. It was delivered by special messenger to one of my agents. Tsunade opened the letter and began to read it. As she read it, her frown deepened. Naruto. Yes. You know how I was just talking about the 1% of the time when as Hokage you must make hard decisions. He slowly nodded. Is this one of those times? I'm afraid so, Shizune. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Shizune appeared as if by summoning. Please contact Kakashi, Hinata, and Kiba and have them all report here. She looked to Naruto and Jiraiya. You two stay as well. I'm afraid your work day is not over yet, Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. We are invited to send 4 representatives to the Isle of Torike to participate in open bidding for the secrets of Orochimaru's curse seal. Tsunade read out. Participants must arrive upon the isle by midnight of May 1st and must have in their possession the sum of 100 million ryu in cash along with a signed letter of granting a representative to both negotiate and sign contracts on behalf of the Hokage in the village of Konoha. The bidding shall take place on the 3rd. The parties must hand over the 100 million ryu sum as a sign of good faith. The sum will be returned once the full amount of the winning bid is received. The rules of Torike shall be in full force. Respectfully, Lord Taka. Lord Taka and the Isle of Exchange. Jiraiya muttered. This should be interesting. Who is this Taka and what's this Isle of Exchange? Kiba asked. Lord Taka rules the Isle of Exchange, or the Isle of Torike, about 1200 miles off the coast. It's basically his own private little kingdom. Tsunade smiled fondly. It has some beautiful hotels and casinos. Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, along with a whole lot of banks and his very own private police force of loyal ninja and a modern navy. So he's a casino owner and banker? Kiba asked. In part, Kakashi replied. What he mostly is a middleman. He arranges for exchanges or sale of goods for a commission and in return guarantees security and privacy. He sounds like a criminal. Kiba commented. Oh, he is. Jiraiya confirmed. But he is also lord over all he surveys and a very powerful businessman. He sounds like Gato. Naruto said darkly. Well, the important thing is that he is very powerful and we have to deal with him carefully. If this letter is true and the secrets of the curse seal are out there for sale, we have to stop our enemies from acquiring it. She sighed and shook her head. How do I explain taking 100 million ryu out of circulation? We're actually going to bring that much cash with us. Naruto said in surprise. I'm afraid we'll have to. There's no way to get on that island without providing it. She looked at the team in front of her. Kakashi, Naruto, Kiba, and Hinata, I am reactivating your squad under the new designation of Team Kakashi. You're being assigned an S-rank mission. Go to the Isle of Torike and determine if the information on the curse seal really is there. If it is, then I want that information destroyed at all costs. What if we're able to retrieve it? Kakashi asked. I don't want it, Tsunade stated. I've seen what it does to the ninja it's inflicted on. I'm declaring it to be a forbidden jutsu and I want all information on it destroyed. Is that clear? They all nodded. Oh, and one more thing, you're leaving with a very large sum of money. Make sure it comes back with you. Jiraiya spoke up. Also keep in mind that there will be other bidders out there, so watch out for them as well. XXXXXXXXXXX. The Tsuchikage waited as his servant entered his study. Yes, Tsuchikage-sama. Takuya bowed to his lord. We have an opportunity to acquire a great new weapon. He handed Takuya the letter he had just received. Select 3 of your best men and sit to Torike and acquire the secrets of Orochimaru for Iwa. Steal them if you can, buy them if you must, no price is too high. But we must have this new power whatever the cost. I understand, Tsuchikage-sama. He bowed and began to leave. Takuya. Yes, lord. Do not fail me. He bowed again. I understand, lord. XXXXXXXXXX. What is it? You know I hate waiting. Their leader ignored his tone. You and your partner are leaving for the Isle of Torike. Why? He grumbled. Are you sending us on a little holiday? It seems Lord Taka has somehow acquired the secrets of the curse seal. As Orochimaru was once your partner, I thought you might want to clean up this final bit of his mess. Faye, that traitor has been dead for years now and he's still causing trouble. Sasori muttered. The curse seal might cause unexpected complications later. Go there and destroy all traces of the information. Pain commanded. That could be rather messy. Use your own best judgment as to how to go about it, but I want no trace of this information to remain. I understand, Sasori said and then began to laugh gruffly. Deidara will probably enjoy himself. 66. Isle of Torike. Another S-rank mission, Kushina said, clearly unhappy with the news. I was hoping you'd get some time to get used to being in the village again. You've been home a little more than a week and Tsunade got you leaving on another dangerous mission. He tried to give her a reassuring smile. Come on, mom, I mean, what other kinds of missions would she give me? You know, son, there's nothing wrong with going on a mission that doesn't put your life in jeopardy. I'll be fine, and I'm going with my whole team so you know things will be alright. Besides, with all my new abilities, I can take on anyone. She shook her head and spoke in a lecturing tone. Naruto-kun, that is a very dangerous attitude to have. It's true you've grown much more powerful, but that is nowhere near the same thing as being invincible. Confidence is a good thing, but arrogance is dangerous, and I am afraid that's the direction you're headed towards. I'll be fine, Mom, he said with certainty. After all, I'm not Hokage yet. XXXXXXXXXXX. He was heading towards the gates with Hinata. The two of them walked hand in hand as they had since being children. As they walked, Naruto looked around. The cliff wall had Godmother's face, of course. Other than that, the village hadn't changed much during his absence. As they walked along, people gave him plenty of room. He studied their expressions. A few sent him dirty or angry looks, and a few gave him happy smiles. The vast majority just walked well around him without giving away their thoughts. Overall, things had improved since he was a child. But he remembered how people had looked at him right after the invasion, when most of them had seen him as a hero. If most people no longer saw him as a monster, they also did not really view him as a hero either. Most seemed willing to just accept him as a part of Konoha. He supposed that was good, but a small part of him wanted to see their approval. He wanted them to cheer him as they had after the invasion. When I am the Rokudime, they will cheer for me. XXXXXXXXXX. Before we go anywhere, I have a present for each of you. Naruto told his team at the gates. All the damage from the invasion had been repaired, including the wall and gates. This is your idea of a present? Kiba asked. He looked the weird kunai. I hate to tell you this, Naruto, but your taste in gifts sucks. Kiba, be nice. Hinata chided. Kakashi took the tri-kunai and looked at it for a moment. I haven't seen one of these in 15 years, Naruto. He spoke quietly. You've really mastered that jutsu, haven't you? Naruto nodded. I have, but it's supposed to stay a secret for now. Only my godmother, Jiraiya, my granduncle, Yamato, and the council know about it. The Hokage wants to try and keep it secret as long as possible. I can certainly understand why. He put the tri-kunai away. Hey, what jutsu are you talking about? Kiba asked. Don't worry about it, Kiba, you'll see it eventually, I'm sure. Kakashi informed him and took out a little orange book. Oh, that reminds me. Naruto began to dig through one of his packs. I got another gift just for you, Nisan. Here it is. Kakashi sucked in his breath at the sight of what Naruto held in his hand. Naruto, is that? Naruto nodded with a grin at his Nisan's stunned reaction. It's Pervy Granddad's newest edition. It has even been signed and won't be available in stores for another month. Kakashi eagerly took the book and carefully opened it to page 1. He sighed happily, it even had that new book smell. Naruto, have I ever told you you're my favorite student? Hey, Kiba shouted, and Akamaru began to bark. XXXXXXXXXX. It took them 3 days to reach the coast. There a speedy yacht waited for them. Boarding, they spent an additional 4 days on the ocean, giving them a bit of free time. XXXXXXXXXX. I'll see your 5 million and raise you 10 million more, Naruto said and tossed in stacks of Ryu notes. Oh yeah, Kiba shoved his entire pile into the space between them. Well, I'm all in. Fine, Naruto shoved a fortune into the middle as well. Let's see him. I got a pair of 8s. Kiba declared. No good, Naruto smiled, laying down his cards. I have 3 4s. Huh, he stared at the small mountain of cash. Want to split it up and play again? Naruto shrugged. Sure, why not? XXXXXXXXXX. Hinata and Naruto were alone in his cabin. Naruto-kun, she pulled his hands down. Oh come on, Hinata-chan, please. He gave her the puppy dog eyes. She grinned and shook her head. Your hands don't get to go there until I'm your wife. But that's not for a whole year yet. He complained. She laughed. Sorry, Naruto-kun, but I'm just not that kind of girl. She leaned in and kissed him again. Once we're married, though, we can do all sorts of things. She purred evilly and made his heart race. Hey, maybe we can get married while we're on the island. She laughed and kissed him again. XXXXXXXXXX. Kiba, what are you doing? Hinata asked. What? Why are you on the floor rolling around on the money? Well, when am I ever going to do this again? Kakashi sighed. Put the money back in the chest, Kiba. XXXXXXXXXX. When they were about 50 miles from their destination, they picked up a shadow. A squat gray shadow with 2 square turrets and a pair of long cannons sticking out of each. On a mast above the bridge on the back of the ship, a white flag with a golden hawk could be seen. One of Lord Taka's gunships. Kakashi said blandly. One of those cannon can blow us out of the water at about 3,000 yards. They're the most powerful ships afloat. It doesn't look that impressive, Naruto stated. What those guns can do is impressive, Kakashi replied. Ha, with my lightning fang I could tear right through it, Kiba declared. Only if you get close enough to use your jutsu. Kakashi shut his book with a snap. Alright, we'll be docking in less than an hour. It's time for us to go over the rules of Torike. Since we'll be in a foreign country, we'll be expected to follow them. First off, the ninjas on the island are considered not only the police force but judge and jury as well and have the right to kill anyone at any time. What? Kiba shouted. Kakashi simply nodded. Like our own Anbu, they consider themselves to be the personal weapons of Lord Taka, and like their lord, they are a law unto themselves. They have the right to kill anyone without fear of repercussion. A few minor lords have discovered this to their sorrow. How can they do that? Naruto asked. Just kill someone for no reason. Oh, they have reason, and so long as their lord approves, they don't have to worry about any sort of law. On the Isle of Torike, Lord Taka is the law. Now, with that in mind, there are certain rules that we will be expected to follow, breaking any of which may lead to being attacked. What sort of rules? Naruto asked. First off, illusion jutsus are strictly forbidden. That means no genjutsu and no henge. They don't like people being disguised. So they'll kill you for having a henge? Naruto asked incredulously. Kakashi nodded. They're very serious about knowing just who is on their island. Secondly, we are not to attack any of Lord Taka's people or any of our competitors for any reason. Other than that, there's not too much you can't do on Torike. It's a place of business but also a legendary playground for those who can afford it. Gambling, prostitution, and drug use are all perfectly legal there. They're at drinking age? Kiba asked eagerly. No, Kakashi replied sternly. But we'll need to keep our wits about us at all times. So do not get yourself in a drunken stupor. XXXXXXXXXX. As they continued to approach the island, 2 other vessels as well as 2 more gunships came into view. One of the other boats had the flag of the Rock Village while the other lacked any sort of insignia. Looks like our competition, Naruto muttered. Damn rock nins. I wonder who the other ones are. Kiba said. Likely representatives of one of the other great powers. Kakashi said. I doubt Lord Taka would even bother contacting the lesser villages. They don't have the necessary financial reserves. Do keep in mind though that we may have more competition waiting for us. XXXXXXXXXXX. It was not long before the smudge on the horizon came clearly into view. The Isle of Torike was not a large place. It was a strip of rock only a few feet above the ocean. It was about 3 miles long and perhaps half a mile wide at its thickest. Every possible inch of space seemed to be crammed with buildings and with tiny streets separating them. Many of the buildings were huge ornate structures rivaling anything to be found on the mainland. The most important buildings, government offices, private palaces, banks, casinos, and hotels had been built from pristine white marble. In the sunlight they seemed to almost shine. By comparison, most of the rest of the buildings seemed to be tiny one-story shacks put together with bits of wood and brick and whatever else was available. It wasn't hard to see where the money was. Along half the water's edge were long wooden piers stretching out into the ocean, nearly every one of which had a variety of ships tied to it. Vast yachts were tied next to humble freighters and simple sailing boats. Despite the lateness of the day, there was plenty of activity as goods and people made their way in and out. The very last pier had been left noticeably empty, and it was towards this one that their ship began to move. Naruto noted that along with the 3 gunships acting as escorts, there were half a dozen more in the bay simply riding at anchor. Their yacht was soon tied to the dock and Team Kakashi had exited. Kiba rode the back of Akamaru with the chest sitting in front of him. The other delegates also exited their boats with chests presumably filled with cash. Out of the ship with the Iwa standard came 4 ninjas, none of whom Naruto recognized. Out of the other ship came 2 ninjas with black robes with red clouds on them. One was a squat bulky man with black hair and a black handkerchief around his face. The other was a tall, rather effeminate-looking blonde fellow. Naruto did not recognize either of them but recognized their clothing. They're Akatsuki. Naruto growled and instinctively grabbed for his sword. Kakashi swiftly got a hold of his wrist and kept him from pulling it out. Naruto, no. This isn't Konoha, you can't attack them. The commotion did not go unnoticed and the 2 Akatsuki members approached them. Yeah, is there a problem here? Deidara asked amused. You're with Akatsuki, Naruto accused. You work with that traitor Itachi. Uchiha Itachi is a member of our organization. The blocky fellow answered with a deep and gravelly voice. Why is that a concern to you? No reason, Kakashi quickly answered. He sent Naruto a look pleading for him to remain quiet. Naruto ignored it. Itachi has come after me and the next time I see him I'm going to kill him instead of just taking his arm. Kakashi groaned and Hinata and Kiba both looked a bit worried. The blocky Akatsuki member lowered his eyes to Naruto's right hand. There Itachi's ring was clearly visible. I see, Sasori replied. So you are the Kyuubi. I am not the Kyuubi. My name is Namikaze Naruto, future Hokage of Konoha. Our interest in you has nothing to do with the office of Hokage. Sasori spoke. The concern of Akatsuki begins and ends with the 9-tailed demon fox you currently possess. Yeah, Deidara said eagerly. Maybe we'll have time for a little side project. Sasori sent his partner a firm look. Our assignment does not involve retrieving the 9-tail. We will handle our assignment. I have no intention of doing Itachi's work for him. With that, the 2 of them headed down the pier. The Iwanins had viewed the entire display and themselves began down the pier without comment, though some hard looks were directed Naruto's way. Naruto, Kakashi spoke in a tight voice once the rock nins were past. Why did you feel the need to tell them who you were? They likely would have found out regardless, but there was no reason to help enlighten them. Naruto took on a stubborn look. I hate those bastards and I wanted them to know it. Kakashi sighed. Hate them by all means, Naruto, but you should have done so silently and anonymously. Especially since we can't fight them here, there was nothing to be gained by showing them such open hostility. No need to worry, sensei, I can handle them if I need to. Kakashi eyed him with real concern. Naruto, I realize you're a lot stronger now, particularly if you know that jutsu, but you need to watch this tendency you seem to have of showing off. If you're not careful, you'll eventually bite off more than you can chew. Naruto grinned. Don't worry, I can deal with anything that comes. XXXXXXXXXX. At the end of the pier, Lord Taka waited with 50 of his ninja. He and all of his ninja wore crests with a golden hawk in flight. In short order, the money was all counted and the letters of authorization were all confirmed. As servants hauled away 3 chests, glasses of champagne were produced. I welcome all of you to my home and invite you to enjoy yourselves and caution you to not break any of the laws here. Lord Taka spoke warmly with a glass already in his hand. I have arranged suites for all of you and trust you will enjoy your stay here. The bidding shall take place at noon in the grand hall of my palace. Until then, you are all free to do as you like. XXXXXXXXXX. As they entered their hotel suite, Naruto looked around and smiled. Wow, this is nice. Hinata nodded. Do you want to do anything tonight? Naruto sent her a questioning look and she started to giggle. Not that. Naruto slowly smiled. You know, Hinata-chan, there is something I've always wanted to do. What's that, Naruto-kun? Well, I've always wanted to stroll into a casino with a beautiful woman on my arm. Hinata smiled and felt her heartbeat quicken just a bit. That sounds like it might be fun, Naruto-kun. XXXXXXXXXX. What do we do about the Namikaze? One of the Iwanbu asked. Nothing. Takuya replied evenly. Nothing. Takuya nodded. We will not jeopardize our current mission solely to pursue revenge on him. But. Takuya gave his men a sharp look. He was not used to being questioned. We will do nothing that puts this mission in jeopardy. Is that clear? He was answered with sullen nods. Feelings were still very strong even after more than a year, but they would obey him. For Takuya, that was enough. XXXXXXXXXX. Sasori activated his astral projection jutsu and sent his consciousness thousands of miles away. Before his eyes, the suite melted away to be replaced by an open road somewhere. Itachi. Uchiha Itachi halted and looked at the image in surprise. Yes. What is it that you want? I have some information you might find interesting. 67. Too late. Author's note, hey everyone, as always I hope you all enjoy this chapter. I wanted to do a little shameless self-promoting. It seems I have been nominated for Best Story and Best Author in a Naruto fanfiction contest. Any of you who would like to help me win can vote for me by going to the fanfiction site for Jesse Briseño. His ID number is 1,362,644. I tried to set up a direct link but Tay system won't let me, and voting for me. Please vote for me, even though I am a heavy, pleasantly plump guy and accounting student, that doesn't mean I don't want to be the popular one. Help me be the cool kid everyone secretly hates yet longs to be. If you do, I'll send Kushina over to bake you some cookies. XXXXXXXXXX. This feels weird. Hinata smiled. Oh, don't worry, Naruto-kun, you look very handsome. It just feels strange to be walking around out in public without my sword or body armor. When he had mentioned wanting to go to a casino, Hinata had gone off on a short shopping trip. He was dressed in a white suit while she had on a slinky black evening gown. He still had his radio communicator and they both had a few kunai on them, just in case. Konoha had no casinos or anything remotely similar. Stepping through massive oak doors, they entered a different world. The light was overwhelming, almost blinding. The air was heavy with cigar smoke and perfume. There were loud, excited shouts as well as the constant noise of slot machines and of dealers crying out. Most of the patrons kept their eyes focused on the games they were playing, but a few looked up and stared a bit. People are looking at us. Hinata noted. But Naruto merely grinned at the beautiful girl that was on his arm. No, Hinata-chan, they're looking at you. A beautiful woman always draws attention. She blushed a bit and smiled. Arigato, Naruto-kun. From where they were, they could see a vast ocean of blinking slot machines. Those didn't interest Naruto. It took a minute, but he finally spotted what he was looking for further back. Come on, Hinata-chan. He led the way into the crowd. XXXXXXXXXX. Lord Taka sipped his champagne and tried to keep the smile from his lips. He looked at his guest. That is a very interesting offer, but I am afraid I shall have to decline it. Takuya set his own glass down. May I respectfully ask why? I would think my offer an excellent one, 200 million ryu for the secrets you possess. Surely you do not expect to make more than that. Ah, but you see, that is the wonderful thing about the open market. Only when a commodity is made available for all can one learn what it is truly worth. Takuya shook his head. The Akatsuki are criminals and certainly have not come here to bargain in good faith. As for the contingent from Konoha, you surely realize that the presence of the Namikaze is no accident. Their Hokage undoubtedly plans to take the secrets by force. That is if they are not first stolen by the Akatsuki. Lord Taka took another sip. I have over 100 ninja here to protect what is mine. Takuya immediately began to laugh. Have I said something funny? You have never dealt with S-rank ninja before, have you? It was not really a question. I met Tsunade once a few years before she became Hokage. Lord Taka smiled at the memory. She ran up a six-figure bill. It was paid in full a short time after she skipped out. Yes, well, Tsunade was inactive back then and trying to avoid trouble. Neither of which applies to the 3 S-rank ninjas you have in your midst currently. I happen to have seen both Naruto and Deidara in action. Believe me, 100 ordinary ninja are no match for them. Your best course of action would be to accept my offer and allow me to depart immediately with the information. Once they realize it is no longer in your possession, you will be safe. Lord Taka shook his head amused. My dear sir, I have dealt with powerful men of all sorts before, including powerful ninja. I can deal with these as well. Takuya shook his head. You have no idea. He stood up. Well, I have made my offer to you. Should you change your mind, contact me at any time. Lord Taka waited patiently as his guest was escorted from his palace. You can come out now. From one of the many bedrooms connected to the grand hall, a nervous Karen strode out. You turned him down. What's wrong with you? We will get more if we leave everything up to auction. Trust me. She shook her head. After my time with Orochimaru, I know just how truly dangerous powerful ninjas can be. If there are 3 of them here, I want no part of it. I didn't risk my life to escape Orochimaru just to get killed now. I say accept the offer. No, Lord Taka answered flatly. Do not forget that it was I who funded your further research that allowed you to create a viable curse seal without the use of Orochimaru's DNA. We are equal partners in this matter and I say we shall go ahead. Aren't you worried what they might end up doing? Karen asked. I have dealt with ninja before. He waved the problem away. Karen frowned. She knew from painful experience that some ninjas were dangerous on an entirely different level than most. She had nearly died once before and had no intention of risking her life again. I want out. Lord Taka looked at her in surprise. Now, when you are about to finally receive a massive fortune, you can't spend it if you're dead. Pay me for my share and let me get out of here. You can do whatever you want with the information. Lord Taka considered it. Very well, I'll give you 5 million and you can leave immediately if you like. 5. Who the hell are you trying to fool? You just had an offer for 200. That means my share is worth 100 million. There are always heavy penalties when you try to cash in an investment before its date of maturity. If you want the full value of your labors, you will have to remain until the auction is complete. The question is, just how badly do you wish to leave before that time? She seriously thought about staying. This was her life's work after all, and not too many people would easily walk away from the sort of money that was at stake. The problem was she'd learned to trust her survival instinct. Right now it was telling her not just to go but to run. 5 million was still a hell of a lot of money. And you could live a hell of a comfortable life on it. Karen nodded, her decision made. All right. Lord Taka grinned. He had honestly never thought the brilliant scientist to be a sucker, but she was. She was letting her weak nerves steer her into a ridiculous financial decision. But that was fine, all the more for him. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto was sitting at the poker table with a large stack of chips and Hinata standing behind him and rubbing his shoulders. He had originally brought 10,000 Ryu with him. After about 2 hours of playing, he had over 20,000 sitting in front of him. My Naruto-kun, I think you've discovered your true calling. Maybe you should stop being a ninja and be a professional gambler. Hinata teased. Don't joke about that, Hinata-chan. When I was growing up, my godmother was always trying to talk my mom letting her bring me to a casino with her. Is that why you're so good at this? Well, my godmother and granddad both say I have good gambling instincts. As they watched, a new player sat down at the table. He was a teenager with sharp red hair and a calm look to him. Sitting down, his eyes were focused on Naruto. Naruto noticed and looked back at the stranger. The only thing Naruto had on that showed he was a ninja was his Hittite. Do you mind if I join the game? The redhead asked. He began putting a large number of chips down on the table. Not at all, Naruto replied. My name is Stalos, I am a merchant from Wind Country. Sasori said as the dealer dealt out the cards. Naruto nodded politely. My name is Naruto and this beautiful lady is Hinata. I am pleased to meet you. Hinata stated. I see you both wear the leaf Hittites. Are you both ninja? Naruto nodded. Here on a little vacation. Actually, Naruto began. Yes, we are, Hinata answered. She gave Naruto a cautious look. Sasori grinned a bit. He thought this might just be interesting. XXXXXXXXXX. They had continued to play for over an hour. Stalos regaled them with exotic stories about the Grand Bazaar of Suna where almost anything could be found and where you could haggle with the merchants. Naruto gladly told him about some of his own recent travels. As they played, the other players dropped out, leaving only them and the dealer at the table. Naruto had won most of the hands and had slowly reduced the number of chips in front of the redhead. Naruto appreciated the good humor his opponent kept even as he lost his money. I need to go to the little girl's room, Hinata whispered to Naruto. He merely nodded and eyed his hand. Seeing her leave, Sasori thought he had an opportunity. Do you know I have been planning to do some business in Fire Country? Tell me, what port would you recommend I visit to begin with? Nagamo, Naruto answered offhandedly as he tossed a couple chips into open. Really? But Yokosuka is the largest port. Oh, Yokosuka is a great city too, don't get me wrong. I just think Nagamo is a little more interesting. Have you been there any time recently? Stalos asked innocently as he discarded a pair of cards. Just a few days ago, as a matter of fact. Stalos nodded and had no trouble hiding his pleasure. Is there any particular hotel you'd recommend? The only hotel there I'm really familiar with is the Flying Crane, and it's really nothing that special. Oh, I am certain that will be just fine. He tossed in the remainder of his chips. I call. He dropped his cards to reveal a pair of eights. Naruto looked at him in surprise as he scooped up the pot. You called on such a weak hand. Stalos got up and bowed. Ah, but I suppose I am a poor player. Good night to you, Naruto. When Hinata returned a moment later, she found Naruto is the only one at the table besides the dealer. Did you finally scare him off? She asked playfully. Yeah, but only after I got all his money. You know, Hinata-chan, maybe I really should become a gambler. I mean, I made 20,000 Ryu in a few hours and I didn't even have anyone throw a kunai at me. Hinata smiled and wrapped her arms around him. Well, before you decide to become a cute young male version of Lady Tsunade, why don't you take me dancing first? There's a dance club not too far from here and it has been a long time since you've danced with me. Sounds good, Hinata-chan. XXXXXXXXXX. The following morning was one of the very few times when Kakashi was the first one to be up. Naruto and Hinata were both still in their beds asleep after being out all night dancing. Kiba had been in the hotel bar trying to meet some girls and trying out various hard liquors. Kiba had already gotten into the habit of drinking a bit. In Konoha the drinking age was 18. But as with many other things, the rule was different for those who wore the Hittite. Kakashi wasn't sure just how much Kiba had wound up drinking, but he was sure that he would regret it whenever he finally woke up. After being stuck on the boat so long, Kakashi had given his team one night to relax and enjoy themselves. Tomorrow was the auction and the mission would begin in earnest. He would give them until this afternoon to rest and recover. But he'd found a dojo where they would get some practice in this afternoon. Currently, he was sitting down at a small outdoor cafe enjoying a light breakfast and rereading his new book. He wanted to see how Teiko dealt with the twin model sisters whose carriage had just broken down. They had just started complaining about their wet clothes when Kakashi felt a powerful chakra signature and looked up to see the blonde effeminate Akatsuki member approaching his table. Mind if I join you? Yeah. Deidara asked. Carefully closing and putting away his book, Kakashi nodded. Please do. He pointed to the seat across from his. You do know that were you to attack me in public it would be a capital offense. Deidara sat down and smiled. Yeah, too bad. I could make your death a true work of art. I trust you also know that all of us are being watched. Kakashi said offhandedly. Yeah, well, unless they have every table in this place bugged, we can talk for a little bit. What do you want to talk about? Yeah, me and my partner want to let you know that you and your team need to get out of here. Kakashi lifted an eyebrow. Well, I have to say that's the politest threat I've ever received. But I'm afraid our orders are quite clear. We will not allow the curse seal to fall into your hands or those of anyone else. Deidara laughed. We don't want it. We Akatsuki are sort of an exclusive bunch. Having a horde of overpowered and half-crazed drones isn't really our thing. It figures you leaf nins want it. We don't want it, but we won't let it fall into anyone else's hands. Deidara and Kakashi looked at one another for a moment. Yeah, you really think I'm going to believe you leaf nins don't want something that will make you more powerful? Not when that power comes at the cost of your sanity. Not to mention the little fact it kills 90% of those who get infected. Kakashi shook his head. And you expect me to believe a known terrorist when he says his criminal organization has no interest in it? Yeah, well, the fact is we don't. What we do have an interest in is the health of the Kyuubi. Kakashi sent the man a cold look backed by just a little killer intent. His name is Naruto, don't insult him by calling him Kyuubi. Deidara chuckled. Yeah, whatever, the thing is we need Naruto to stay alive and well until we can harvest him. Kakashi's one visible eye flattened and his killer intent ratcheted up a couple notches. Harvest him. Yeah, we're going to yank the Kyuubi right out of him, which will kill him of course. Deidara noticed the killer intent rising again. We have plans for its chakra and the chakra of all the Biju. What sort of plans? Yeah, like I'm going to tell you. Actually, like the other members of Akatsuki, he did not know exactly what his leader had in mind. But for right now, at least it seems we have some common goals. Don't go to the auction tomorrow. I'm going to make it a real work of art. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kakashi and his team were walking along the beach admiring the sunset and having a quiet talk. Nissan, are you crazy? You expect us to trust these bastards? We're not going to trust them blindly, Kakashi said as he looked over the book. We'll make sure their intention really is to destroy the information rather than steal it. However, if that is what they have in mind, we will not interfere. Pardon me, Kakashi-sensei, Hinata spoke up as she and Naruto walked hand in hand. But what if Naruto-kun is right? How can we work with them when we know what they want to do with Naruto-kun? Her voice had an edge to it. Hearing it, Naruto looked over to her and gave her hand a little squeeze. Hinata, I am not saying that these two aren't the enemy. All I am saying is that for the moment at least our goals are the same and we can use them in order to complete our mission successfully. They walked a bit more. Now here is what I have in mind. XXXXXXXXXX. The following day at noon the three groups were escorted to the Grand Palace of Lord Taka. In the great hall of his home, Lord Taka smiled at them. No less than 50 of his ninja were on hand to provide security. He was not a fool to think there was no danger. But with so many of his ninja at hand, he thought the risks to be reasonable. Gentlemen, he spoke in a friendly and eager tone. I thank you for your interest in the one item I have available today. Your presence here speaks well of both your wisdom and resources. The villages of Lightning and Mist were both also invited but declined to come. Surely your foresight will be well rewarded in the near future and provide more than adequate compensation for the monetary sacrifice that. Enough. An annoyed Sasori called out in his gravelly voice. I detest being kept waiting. We all know the reason that we are here. Let us begin. Seeing nods all around, Lord Taka reached into a pouch and pulled out a plastic case with a single disc inside. This gentleman contains all the information relating to Orochimaru's curse seal, including a method of creating a curse seal without Orochimaru's involvement. Whoever is the high bidder shall win for their village or organization a great new source of power. And the knowledge will be theirs exclusively. How are we to be sure of that? Sasori demanded. Lord Taka was hardly offended. Gentlemen, my reputation should be all the guarantee you need. I am well aware of the value of security and privacy. Besides this disc I hold in my hand, the information is kept in the computer system in this palace. It exists nowhere else. Once the final bid is accepted, I shall head over the disc and completely wipe my computer system, thus ensuring the owner exclusivity. I think he's telling the truth, Kakashi noted. Yeah, me too, Deidara agreed. In that case, can we finally begin? Takuya asked. Yes, Sasori agreed. Let us begin. He looked to his partner. Do not keep me waiting long. His image became sand and spread out over the floor. Kakashi looked over to his team. Naruto. Right. Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. XXXXXXXXXX. On board their yacht, Naruto looked over to his team. They had managed to sneak back unobserved while shadow clones took their place. It's starting. I'll be right back. Without hand signs, he disappeared in a golden flash. Captain, we'll be going now, Kakashi said calmly. Yes, sir. The ship's captain began barking out orders and the engines began coming to life. You do know, sir, that while we're a bit faster than the gunships, their cannon will have us in a range for some time and we can't outrun the shells. Don't worry, we have something in mind for that, Kakashi said. Kiba puffed out his chest. Right. With my lightning fang, me and Akamaru will totally take those ships apart. Actually, Kiba, I was thinking of a certain jutsu of Naruto's. XXXXXXXXXX. What is the meaning of this? Lord Taka demanded. With a wave of his hand, 50 ninjas closed in around them. I told you to accept my offer, Takuya said resignedly. As Lord Taka watched Deidara's form change to gray clay. Oh yeah, let me show all of you that art is a. Too late, the people in the hall realized they were in trouble. Bang. XXXXXXXXXX. There was a yellow flash and Naruto appeared again wearing a huge smile. Kakashi looked at him in surprise. How did it go? Pretty much as you expected, Nissan. The chest was in a vault somewhere and since I'd put a seal on it, the Hiraishin took me straight to it. They heard a huge explosion. Along with the explosion, Kakashi received the memory of his shadow clone and Naruto the memories of the two clones that had been playing as Kiba and Hinata. Well, it looks like they really did want the information destroyed, Kakashi said. I guess, Naruto muttered. I still don't trust them. Neither do I, Naruto, Kakashi said, but it would have been foolish to refuse to use such a valuable resource. They all lurched as the yacht pulled away from the dock and headed out to sea as fast as their engines could take them. Hey Naruto, Kiba asked. Where's the chest? Smiling, he pulled out a scroll and spread it on the floor. Release. In a puff of smoke, the chest they'd brought with them appeared. Along with two others. You got all three, Kiba exclaimed. Yeah, Naruto said proudly. Great job, Naruto. You've just done the village quite a service. Kakashi beamed. There were a couple small booms as ahead of them two geysers of water burst. We have a problem, the captain called out. One of the gunships has opened fire on us. XXXXXXXXXXX. What had been a magnificent marble palace only a moment before was a smoking crater now. Circling high above in a large clay bird, Deidara could hear the faint echoes of people screaming in panic. Yeah, come on, Master Sasori, will you finally admit the wonder of my art? His blocky partner was riding just behind him. You are a child that just likes simple momentary thrills. True art lasts forever, is a joy forever. Deidara stuck a hand into a case filled with clay. In short order, the mouth within his hand spat out 5 small clay birds. Deidara tossed them out and watched as they expanded and sped earthwards. What are you doing? Sasori asked. With such a magnificent canvas before me, how can I not make more art? He thrilled to see 5 more marble building explode and collapse. Fresh screams filled the air. Yeah, now that's art. You really are a child. Sasori muttered. While looking below, he noticed the scene in the harbor as 9 gunships began to swarm and close in on the yacht from Fire Country. It seems we may have to intervene to save the Kyuubi. Before Deidara could reply, they saw something stir just beneath the waves. XXXXXXXXXXX. The yacht turned with all its might as explosions and geysers of water seemed to surround them. All 9 of the gunships were moving in to cut off any escape. If you're going to do something, do it now. A terrified captain cried out. Naruto, are you sure your jutsu can deal with this? Kakashi asked just a bit nervously. Probably. Kakashi gawked at him. Naruto shrugged as he bit down on his thumb. Well, technically I've never actually used it before. Kakashi stared at him, jaw hanging open beneath his mask. Oh come on, have faith in your future Hokage. He began to quickly run through a long series of hand signs. Summoning of the Kraken. He slammed his hand down on the deck. XXXXXXXXXX. The water in the bay suddenly grew choppy and rough as all the ships were tossed about. Then from all around 8 massive tentacles began to rise up out of the ocean. They were massive, rising hundreds of feet into the air and wide enough to triple the length of any of the ships. There were screams just at the very sight. The gunships began to turn and a couple redirected their aim and fired at the massive tentacles. There was an explosion on the fleshy side of one of the arms. The flesh was torn and some blood began to rain down. Compared to the mass of the arm, the wound seemed little more than a pinprick. But the water stirred and all the tentacles began to wave as if in reaction to pain. Down they came, slamming into the sea and into the gunships. With a shredding sound, Naruto watched as the most powerful ships in the world were crushed like empty soda cans. A few sailors had gotten away and were in the water swimming for all they were worth. Eager not to let such tasty morsels escape, the suckers on the underside latched on and pulled them down into the churning water. 2 of the gunships had avoided the first encounter and were both turning around and trying to make it to open sea. Each was grabbed by a tentacle, not to be crushed but rather hauled up out of the water. As Naruto watched, what seemed like a gigantic bird's beak burst up out of the waves. From beneath this beak a monstrous body arose up out of the water. The monster's flesh was pink and they could see vast veins pulsing just beneath the skin. A single yellow eye rose above the sea. It turned and focused on Naruto and he knew that it would have eagerly devoured him as well. 2 tentacles took hold of each of the remaining boats and tore them roughly in half. Then the tentacles began to shake them. Out of the ruined boats came debris and bits and pieces of metal, furniture, and living men. The men howled in mortal terror as they fell into the waiting mouth beneath them. The beak opened wide and then snapped shut, eagerly consuming them. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto-kun, that's enough. Hinata cried out. Stop it. Nodding, Naruto ended the jutsu. With the Kraken's sudden disappearance, the water rushed into the now empty space and the yacht was tossed about. XXXXXXXXXX. Yeah, now that was impressive. Deidara said. Sasori could only nod. It's almost a shame, I would love to hollow him out and make him a puppet. Yeah, well, you can always keep him as a souvenir if you want. Now let's get going. The bird circled once more and then began the long journey back to the coast. XXXXXXXXXX. The trip back to their original starting point of Nagamo was quiet and uneventful. It was near dark when they finally returned. All right, we'll get a good night's rest and then head back home early in the morning, Kakashi announced. His team met the decision with happy agreement, glad to finally be off the boat and back on dry land. XXXXXXXXXX. Late that night, Naruto was awoken by the ringing of a telephone. Half awake, he groped around the nightstand before finally grabbing it. Hello, he muttered into the receiver. An Anbu messenger. A special message just for me. He suddenly felt himself to be far more awake. I'll be right down. Naruto quickly got dressed. This was certainly unusual, but he liked the idea of his godmother sending a special message for only him. Maybe it's a special mission too dangerous for anyone but me. XXXXXXXXXX. Down in the hotel lobby, he received a note with a location only a few blocks from the hotel. Though it was past midnight, he got moving with all his usual energy. Reaching the specified street corner, he spotted the Anbu standing on a rooftop. He leapt up to the roof to face the man in the owl mask. So what's the? He recognized the chakra signature. He suddenly leapt back and pulled out his katana. You. Too late, Naruto-kun. A calm voice spoke as red eyes locked onto his blue ones. 68. The Supreme Order. Naruto had faced the Sharingan many times before while sparring with his Nissen. He'd faced Itachi once before and defeated him, though with help. He had even faced the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan in his final battle with Sasuke. All of this had led Naruto to believe that the Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan, while certainly powerful, were not deserving of their fearsome reputations. Unfortunately, he was about to discover something he should have already known. As a 5th-level blade master, he could do things with his katana that a novice could not even imagine. That same vast gulf also existed between novice and master users of the Mangekyo. He began to understand this as he felt his body being pulled into a dark nightmarish realm and could nothing to stop it. One moment he had been on the roof of a building in Nagumo about to fight. The next he was naked and bent over in a 3-foot-tall iron cage. In the Tsukuyomi dreamscape I completely control time, space, and even all substance. Within this realm I am truly a god. Itachi's calm disembodied voice seemed to come from everywhere. Naruto grabbed the bars and desperately tried to snap them. He could not form a Rasengan or focus chakra into his hand, he couldn't even seem to feel his chakra. There was something about being in a cage that just filled him with a mad panic. He shook the bars and threw his shoulder against them, all to no effect. Let me out of here. You killed my foolish little brother. The disembodied voice continued in that calm, even strain. It seems only fitting that I do the same with a member of your family. Suddenly a woman appeared before him, kneeling with bent over. She brought her head and her eyes looked into his with a quiet strength and a love that would never fade. Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you. Mom. He knew this wasn't real. He told himself again and again it was nothing but a genjutsu. But the sight of his mother seemed as real to him as the iron bars he was gripping. And before his eyes Itachi appeared standing directly behind her, a sword raised above his head. No. Mom, run. Itachi, don't F-sharpen King touch her or I'll kill you. Naruto howled and threw his body against the cage, suddenly beyond frantic. Neither Itachi nor his mother seemed to hear him. With a smooth and ideal grace Itachi brought the blade down and severed Kushina's neck as Naruto could only watch. Her head came off as neat as you could please and the blood gushed from the neck as her body tumbled over. Naruto howled as he felt his heart and soul being ripped from him. He felt hot tears in his throat choking. Moom. He wailed in despair. Itachi watched and simply nodded, satisfied. I will spend 72 hours torturing you. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds still remaining. Suddenly his mom was alive again and kneeling before him. Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you. The words were spoken in that gentle voice that had always comforted him and made him feel safe. He tried to shut his eyes this time. This is a damn lie. It's an illusion. It's not real. Though his eyes were closed, he heard the sickening sound of metal cutting flesh and bone. He heard a body tumble to the ground and a head bounce in the dirt. Despite his eyes being shut, the memory was already burned into his mind. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds still remaining. Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you. Stop it. Please, I'll do anything but stop. His eyes were open and he saw the sword come down and cut into his mother's neck. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 57 seconds still remaining. Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you. XXXXXXXXXX. Some things in life were difficult to endure even once. When such an event repeated itself thousands of times, with each repetition seeming real, it was more than even the strongest will could bear. XXXXXXXXXX. It took only a few seconds of real time and his technique was completed. Itachi watched as Naruto stiffened. His katana slipped out of a slack hand. He pitched forward without making a sound. Itachi caught him and carefully set him down on the roof. He quickly checked Naruto's pulse and breathing to make sure the Tsukuyomi had not done more than he'd wanted it to. Itachi nodded. His vital signs were strong, even if his mind was now shattered. Itachi discarded the mask and robe that had been his disguise. He had decided not to use a henge in order to increase the odds of bringing Naruto close to him. It had worked. Gently Itachi removed the ring on Naruto's right hand and returned it to his own. You are truly a worthy adversary, Naruto-kun. Feel no shame in the fact that you were defeated in a single move. The mere fact I was required to resort to it speaks highly of you. He picked Naruto up and with great care put him over one shoulder. I bear you no ill will, Naruto-kun, neither for my arm or for Sasuke. You have become a truly powerful ninja and I respect you. I do regret that you shall meet your end not in battle but as a mere tool at the hands of my organization. However, to deliver you is the supreme order given unto me by the Akatsuki. With a simple gesture, he and Naruto were gone. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. A few miles outside the city, Itachi met his former partner and his current one. I see it went well, Kabuto said with a friendly smile. He was standing in his black cloak with red clouds. I notice you managed to keep your arm this time. Kisame chuckled. Hey, you even got your ring back. Itachi simply nodded, being in no mood to talk. We need to move quickly. Once they learn his fate, Konoha will surely mount a rescue attempt. He looked at Kisame in his black shirt and pants, his bandaged sword still on his back. I require your assistance until the operation is complete. Once we have harvested the Kyuubi, your debt to me shall be fully paid. Kisame nodded. Sure thing. They all got moving at top speed through the trees. Itachi continued to carry Naruto. What do we do if his team manages to track us? Kabuto asked in a cheerful voice. If that happens, we will deal with them. It was all Itachi would say. They had a good many hours until dawn and covered quite a lot of ground. XXXXXXXXXXX. It was 8 in the morning. Hinata checked her appearance once more in the mirror. She had showered, dressed, brushed her teeth, and combed her hair. Satisfied with her appearance, she grabbed her backpack off the bed and left her hotel room. She went a couple doors down to Naruto's room. She knocked. Naruto-kun, it's 8. Are you ready for breakfast yet? That was the normal routine. She would grab Naruto and then Kiba. The three of them would have breakfast at the time Kakashi had told them to. Then around 10 Sensei would finally show up to eat. Then once he had eaten, they would finally be ready to leave. As she stood in the hall waiting for a response, she began to frown. Naruto being a little late was hardly unusual, but normally he would be shouting he needed to take a quick shower or was still getting dressed and needed a minute. He didn't usually sleep in unless he'd been out all night. She knocked again, just a little more loudly. Naruto-kun, are you awake? Are you ready for breakfast? Still there was no answer. She frowned a bit more. Something about the silence from his room bothered her. She was sure it was nothing, but still, Byakugan. She immediately saw that his hotel room was empty. She at once checked to see if he was with Kiba or Kakashi. Kiba was dressed and ready. Kakashi-sensei was still in bed. She checked the hotel lobby and cafe, only to find he was not there either. She expanded her field of vision and did a quick scan in a 2-mile radius. Unfortunately, being in a big city with so many people made it difficult to spot any one specific individual. Now starting to feel really worried, she activated her radio. Naruto-kun, this is Hinata-chan, where are you? She set her radio back to receive and waited. There was only silence. She forced herself to wait a full minute before sending out another message. Naruto-kun, if you can hear me, please respond. Kiba had heard the same message over his radio and came out of his room. What's going on, Hinata-chan? Naruto-kun is missing. There was worry lacing her voice. He's not in his room and I don't know where he is. Seeing she was really worried, he gave her a calming grin. Relax, Hinata-chan. Knowing Naruto, he probably woke up early and decided to do some sword training. She considered it and slowly nodded. Maybe. I noticed his sword and gear are gone, but he left behind his backpack. Well, there you go. I'm sure that's it. But why wouldn't he answer my call? Naruto would never ignore a radio call from one of us. Kiba's confident grin faded a bit. That's true, he admitted. He sniffed the air. Well, I'm sure he's fine, but if you want, we can go track him down. He left a good strong trail. Hinata nodded instantly. Yes, let's go find Naruto-kun. You want to wake Sensei? No, let him sleep for now. XXXXXXXXXXX. The trail led them to a rooftop only a few blocks from the hotel. She spotted it instantly. Oh, Kami, she whispered. She felt all the strength in her body leave her. She dropped to her knees beside the sword. This is Naruto-kun's katana. He wouldn't leave it, he'd sooner leave an arm behind. Hinata, Kiba's voice was now filled with fear. There's another scent here. She looked up at him fearfully. It's Itachi's. XXXXXXXXXX. Kakashi was sitting up in bed reading. He'd accidentally left his radio communicator off and so had missed the frantic messages that had been sent to him. So he was a bit surprised when his hotel door exploded into kindling. Instinctively leapt out of bed and grabbed a kunai. Expecting to see some enemy ninja, he was surprised to instead see a rather upset Hinata with her fist surrounded by chakra. Hinata, what on earth? Kakashi-sensei, why is your radio off? She demanded. Naruto-kun's been kidnapped by Itachi. We have to go after him. He's been what? Hinata and Kiba quickly related the events and Hinata held out the katana as physical proof of their words. Kakashi ignored his embarrassment from standing in front of his team in boxers and a t-shirt. He quickly got dressed and wrote out a message on some paper. Summoning technique. In a small puff of smoke, Pakun appeared. Pakun, we have an emergency. Kakashi wasted no time with idle greetings. Naruto has been kidnapped by Uchiha Itachi. My team and I will be going after him immediately, but we have no idea how many of the Akatsuki may be involved. Go to the Hokage and tell her we'll need all the backup she can spare us. Alright, got it. And good luck to you. Pakun disappeared. XXXXXXXXXXX. They had been traveling 8 hours and the sun was now well above the horizon. Itachi and Kabuto entered the hidden underground base. Kisame would remain outside as he was no longer a member and so not welcomed. Arriving in the cavernous chamber, they were greeted by the astral projection of their leader. I see that you have succeeded. I am most pleased. Yes, Itachi replied as he placed Naruto down in the very center of the stone floor. He then stood there and simply looked down at the motionless form. Kabuto observed his partner with a look of surprise. If I didn't know any better, I would think you were sad. Itachi sent his partner an icy glance. You do not know me. Do not make the mistake of thinking that you do. Pain completed a very long series of hand signs. All around them an arcane statue began to rise up out of the ground, like some sort of bizarre tree. A distorted face with 8 closed eyes and 2 hands took shape. Pain leapt up to stand on one of the fingers. Come, it is time. All around him astral projections of various members began to appear at their appointed places. Itachi and Kabuto leapt up to their positions as well. Let us commence harvesting the Kyuubi. In 3 days we shall have added his power to our own. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade was asleep with her head on a pile of papers when Pakun arrived with a puff of smoke. Hokage-sama. I'm awake. Tsunade suddenly sat up. Pakun, what are you doing here? The small dog leapt into her desk and pulled out the scroll Kakashi had given him. There's an emergency, you need to read this. Tsunade took the offered paper and did just that. The message on it was short and to the point. Oh Kami, Naruto. She pressed the intercom button on her desk. Shizune, we have an emergency call in Kushina, Guy, Asuma, and their teams. Also, I want Captain Tenzo here as fast as possible. Yes, Lady Tsunade. A startled Shizune answered. And have an emergency message sent out to Jiraiya that he is to report back to the village immediately. Tsunade let go of the intercom and looked at Pakun. How long ago did this happen and where? It happened about 8 hours ago and it was in Nagamo. That's 3 days away, damn it. Do you have any more information for me? Only that Kakashi and the rest of his team are pursuing them. Tsunade nodded grimly. All right, get back to Kakashi and I want to be informed the moment you learn more. Right. Pakun disappeared in a puff of smoke. Tsunade looked out her office window. I am not going to lose you, Naruto. Not like I lost Dan and Nawaki. I'll save you no matter what, my godson. 69. First strike. Do you have any idea what this is about? Asuma asked quietly. Not a clue, Kushina stated, but when you're ordered to meet the Hokage immediately, it's never for good news. She looked around the reception area. And judging by how many Jonin and Chunin we have here, I'm expecting the worst. Yash, whatever it is, we shall master it with the fires of our youth. Kushina shook her head, not really wanting to argue with Guy. Nothing could get that man down. The 3 senseis had gathered together away from their teams to talk for a bit. But unfortunately none of them knew anything. Kushina looked at who had been summoned. Rock Lee and his teammate Tenten were conversing. Despite both being Chunin, they still worked together with Guy. Tenten was wearing more formal clothing than she once had, with a large scroll other back. She and Neji had become very close according to Hinata. Lee was still a clone of his sensei, even more so now that he wore a Chunin vest. He still spouted about fires of youth and all that, and he was still as determined as ever to be a great ninja even without chakra. He was, however, just a bit more serious and a bit more grown up than he had been. Sakura's death had hit him hard. It had taken him about a year to regain his smile. But he would never again be quite the same. Shikamaru was leaning against a wall as he listened to Ino talk, and his Choji had some chips. Shikamaru had become Jonin about 6 months ago, and though Yoshino was technically clan head, he seemed to bear most of the burden. Ino and Choji were both Chunin, while Choji had the added pressure of also being clan head. The 3 of them were no longer an active team, though they did still train and go out together at times. If Team 10 was being reassembled, that was likely a bad sign. It meant a difficult mission was lying ahead and their special abilities might be called on. There was also a group of 4 Anbu standing a bit separately. She recognized their leader as Captain Tenzo. Naruto still called him Yamato, or even sometimes Yamato-sensei. Was the Hokage planning on using a 4-man Anbu squad as well? Finally, she looked to her own team. Their team dynamic had always been a bit off. Having 2 girls in love with the same guy tended to do that. But things had gotten worse recently, with Haku and Gabriella barely able to communicate with each other. She had tried to find out the problem, but her efforts had met with failure. XXXXXXXXXX. 3 days ago. Panting and covered in sweat, he rolled off of her. She smiled over at him as they relaxed in the bed. Both of them satisfied, both of them spent. She hated having to sneak off to hotels disguised with henges. But that was still better than having to explain to her father or to sensei what they were doing. She and Haku had been lovers for a while now, and she was not willing to risk these short moments of raw joy. They would sneak off separately and rendezvous at their hotel for an hour or two. That was all they dared to spend like this. What she really wanted was to spend the night with him. The sex was amazing and ferocious. Haku had been shy at first, but after a while he'd become a real tiger, much to her surprise and pleasure. But she loved him, not just physically but with her whole heart. She wanted to drift off to sleep with his arms wrapped around her. But that of course was impossible. Gabriella, Haku looked over to her. The smile of just a moment ago gone and replaced by a serious look. What are we going to do? She gently caressed his face. Do we have to talk about this right now? We've been avoiding it for a long time, but the problem is not going to go away. Gabriella, I love you and I want you to marry me. She let her hand fall away. I love you too, Haku, and nothing would make me happier. He waited as she paused, knowing what was coming. But would you be willing to join my clan? He sighed. I have already told you I intend to found my own clan. And I have told you I intend to change my clan for the better one day. I can only do that as clan head. As much as I love you, for a ninja sometimes duty must come before all else, even love. She looked at him desperately. Haku, is it really so important for you to found a new clan? Mamashi isn't even your original clan name, is it? Haku shook his head. I never knew what my mother's maiden name was. I have no idea what clan I am descended from. Then Haku, why not just become an Uchiha? He hesitated before giving her his answer. Because I do not want my children born into that clan. She suddenly sat up. What the hell do you mean? She often complained about the problems in her clan, but didn't appreciate hearing criticism from someone outside the family. Even if it was from him. What's wrong with being Uchiha? He sat up as well. Gabriella, I know you would be a wonderful mother, and would love and care for our children. But I know how much you have suffered because of your clan's feelings towards its Kekkei Genkai. I have suffered because of how others viewed my Kekkei Genkai. I do not want my children to endure that as well. I do not want them born into a clan that will only judge them by their bloodline limit. I want my clan to be like the Namikaze, where all family members are loved and accepted regardless of blood or ability. You've never said that before. I didn't want to tell you. But Haku, it won't be like that for our children. I'm going to change the Uchiha and the way we deal with the Sharingan. Our children won't go through what I did. You can't guarantee that, Gabriella. Haku spoke quietly and earnestly. Even if you can change the hearts of your clan members, what if you should be killed one day? It is a possibility we have to consider. You lost your mother, I lost both parents, Naruto lost his father, and Hinata lost her mother. I won't put my children in a clan where they may end up suffering just because of what is in their blood. I will not join the Uchiha clan. Well, I won't abandon my clan. So where the hell does that leave us? XXXXXXXXXXX. The doors to the Hokage's office opened and out came a grim-looking Tsunade followed by an equally worried-looking Shizune. We are badly pressed for time, so I am going to just announce what's going on. She faced Kushina. About 8 hours ago, Naruto was captured in the city of Nagamo by Uchiha Itachi. Kushina felt her heart turn to lead and fall into her belly. Naruto's been captured. Her voice was only one among many that cried out upon hearing the news. Tsunade held up her hands and it took a moment for everyone to settle down so she could continue. Alright, here is what we know. Naruto has been captured and taken somewhere. According to information given to us by Kisame, it is almost 100% certain he will be brought to an Akatsuki base to have the Kyuubi taken out of him. At this moment, Kakashi and the rest of his team are tracking him. The moment they learn his location, Kakashi will send a summons to me to tell me exactly where he is. We're going to get him back. Kushina shouted. Of course we are. Tsunade agreed. That is why all of you are here. I would like to bring every ninja in the village with us, but not even for Naruto can I risk doing that. This is the largest and best force that I can safely spare. I've also sent for Jiraiya, but he is out of the village right now and we can't afford to wait. According to Kisame, it takes 3 days to remove a demon from its host. We have that much time to save him. I'm leading all of you on an S+ rank mission to save the life of Namikaze Naruto. Lady Tsunade, you cannot do that. Shizune protested. Even if it is Naruto, you can't simply leave to go on a mission. Tsunade shook her head. I can and I will. The village will survive fine without me for a short time. You can handle things while I'm gone. If something were to happen to Naruto because I wasn't there, I would never forgive myself. She looked at everyone. Get any supplies you need and make sure you have plenty of soldier pills. We'll meet at the gates in 20 minutes. She went over to Kushina and embraced her. We're getting him back, don't doubt it for a second. Tsunade said. Kushina nodded. She was terrified. This was her worst nightmare come to life. I know we will. I am not losing my son no matter what. XXXXXXXXXXX. Hinata, stay in formation. Given who we're up against, we can't afford to get sloppy. Kakashi called out. They were flying through the trees with Kiba and Akamaru leading the way. Despite needing to follow Kiba's lead, Hinata was starting to push ahead of him. But we have to hurry. She yelled back. We have to save him. The terror in her voice was plain. We will, Hinata, Kakashi assured her. We're going to save him. But we can't do it if we're spread all over the forest. Stay in tight with us, you will get your chance soon enough, believe me. But remember, we will be facing Akatsuki. If you're not focused and sharp, you will die. Do keep that in mind, Hinata. I understand, sensei. She slowed down just a tad to stay in formation. She knew Kakashi was right, of course. But her every instinct demanded she get to Naruto as fast as her body would take her. Hold on, Naruto-kun, we're coming to save you. XXXXXXXXXX. Pain's astral projection seemed to sigh. We have company approaching. They need to be dealt with. How many of our servants are available? Only 2. Sasori replied. That was all that was available. Pain nodded. Itachi, you and your partner deal with them. I will require you to prevent any interruption. I understand, Itachi replied calmly. XXXXXXXXXX. Kiba took a deep breath. We've got company coming. Who? Kakashi called out. One of the scents is Kisami's, the other 2 I don't recognize. Kakashi signaled a halt. They each landed on a separate tree branch. Hinata, what do you see? Nodding, she activated her bloodline. Byakugan. She looked off about a mile and a half ahead of them. Something strange is going on. I see Kisame and 2 others who look like Itachi and Kabuto, but their images are false. Kiba nodded. Yeah, whatever they look like, the ones ahead of us are not Itachi and Kabuto. That doesn't mean this is going to be easy. Kisame is an S-rank missing nin and the abilities of these other 2 may be unknown, but we have to assume they're extremely dangerous. We'll have to go at them with our full strength. And since that's the case, he lifted his Hidai to reveal his Sharingan. Alright, let's go face them. XXXXXXXXXX. In an open clearing, Itachi, Kisame, and Kabuto waited. Kakashi, Hinata, and Kiba riding on Akamaru landed at the other end of the clearing. Itachi nodded to them in a polite manner. That you would risk facing us to try and retrieve Naruto-kun speaks well of your courage, if not your sense of survival. Leave here and do not return, this will be your only warning. Itachi, where is Naruto? What have you done with him? Kakashi asked as Hinata and Kiba carefully got some space to either side. Itachi nodded and both Kabuto and Kisame took a few steps from him. He is nearby meeting his destiny. Rescue is impossible and would only lead to your own deaths. We'll never abandon Naruto-kun. Hinata spat out venomously. Very well. Itachi began casting a jutsu as both Kisame and Kabuto leapt forward. Grand Fireball technique. A huge boulder of concentrated flame came at Kakashi, who leapt aside to dodge it. XXXXXXXXXX. A little ways off, Kabuto confronted Hinata. As he took out a kunai, he offered her a friendly smile. It's been a long time, hasn't it, Hinata? I haven't seen you since the start of the Chunin exams. If I may say so, you have grown into a beautiful young woman. With her Byakugan already active, she sent him a cold look. Do you really think your compliments mean anything to me? Now, no need to be hostile. You don't have to die here, you know. Walk away and you can live a nice long life. If you insist on pushing this, you're going to die here today. She dropped into a Juken fighting stance. I love Naruto more than my own life. For him I would gladly die or kill. Kabuto shook his head. Don't you have any dreams? If you die here, your dreams will die with you. Hinata sent him a chill smile. Being with Naruto-kun is my dream. If I lose him, then there is nothing left for me. Well, I see there's no talking to you. Kabuto rushed forward to attack her. XXXXXXXXXX. Kisame took Samahata off his back and allowed the bandages to fall away. I'm going to shave you to the bone, kid, and your little dog too. Akamaru growled. Shut up, Kiba shouted. He leapt off of Akamaru's back. I know just how dangerous you are, and Akamaru tells me you have huge chakra reserves, so I won't fool around with you. Let me show you an original jutsu my sensei helped me create. He launched himself into the air and began to spin. Lightning Fang. Kisame heard a chirping of birds as the spiral coming at him suddenly lit up. Not good. He leapt away, but Kiba seemed locked in on his scent and continued to close. Kisame got his sword up and used it to block. Kiba's jutsu struck him full force and sent him flying even as he tried to hold his ground. To Kisame's astonishment, as he tried to block the raw force of this attack, he heard a loud crack. His beady little eyes grew as he saw Samahata begin to break underneath its force. XXXXXXXXXX. Itachi easily dodged the shuriken thrown at him. It is a shame that it comes to this, Kakashi. Given all our years together in the Anbu, you are of the few people I truly respect. Were I a different sort of man, I might consider you a friend. Kakashi nodded. I respect your skills, Itachi, but nothing else. As for friendship, I would never be friends with a traitor or someone who would kill his own father. You are a disgrace to both your village and clan. Itachi frowned. Do not speak to me of my clan. They are fools who do not understand what it means to be truly great. And I suppose you do. Kakashi mocked. In my life I have known only one Uchiha I would call great. And compared to Obito, you're nothing. Itachi shook his head. Such stupid sentimentality. Honestly, Kakashi, after all your years in the Black Ops, I would have expected better from you. Well, I have learned something, Itachi. After Sasuke's little rampage, Ryuki was called to account and forced to reveal information about the Mangekyo Sharingan. Thanks to that information and the pain I feel for Obito's death, I have developed my own version of it. Itachi stared at him. I do not believe you. Only an Uchiha could ever develop a Mangekyo. Beneath his mask, Kakashi smiled. Spoken like any other meme BR of the Ushuaia clan. Maybe you're not so different from them after all. Itachi felt the sting of those words. Very well, Kakashi, let us put your words to the test. With that, he activated his Mangekyo. He swiftly drew Kakashi into the colorless world of his own creation. Kakashi was bound to a cross as Itachi stood before him with a sword. Here in the Tsukuyomi dreamscape, I completely control time, space, and even all substance. Within this realm, I am truly a god. With no further notice, he drove his sword into Kakashi's guts. I will spend 72 hours torturing you. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds still remaining. To Itachi's surprise, though, Kakashi did not scream or speak a word. Ah, now I see, clever. In the real world, Kakashi's shadow clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kabuto had struck her twice with his chakra scalpel. The hits were non-lethal, but they slowed her down some. You haven't managed to hit me once with your gentle fist. I was expecting better from you. Hinata grinned. I was being sloppy on purpose to draw you in. Now you are in range of my 8 trigrams. She snapped down again into the Jukin stance. Gentle fist, 8 trigrams, 64 palms. With that, she launched her clan's ultimate fighting move with a speed and power that Kabuto could not hope to match. Not only did every strike shut down one of his chakra points, but she had an added touch all her own. She focused just a tiny bit of chakra into the end of her fingers. The result was that along with cutting off his chakra flow, she also delivered a physical beating, making her gentle fist rather hard. Her 64th and final strike sent him flying into a tree. She now stood over a beaten enemy who could no longer use chakra. It's over, she declared. Now you're going to tell me exactly where Naruto is and how we can save him. Kabuto smiled and quickly tossed a pill down his throat. He gave her a respectful nod. This fight is over, I look forward to the next one. Almost as soon as he'd said that, his body began to spasm and shake. Her Byakugan showed her his heart had stopped. She hurried to his side to try and revive him, but the poison was too effective. With the poor man's death, his true identity was revealed. He was just a stranger looking up at her with dead eyes. Whether the man had served willingly or been controlled, she would never know. She gently closed his eyes and got moving to help her teammates. XXXXXXXXXX. Water Dragon Missile. A huge column of water rose out of a nearby pond and struck Kiba, sending him flying. You broke my sword. I'll kill you for that. I'm going to tear you apart and feed your arms and legs to my sharks while you watch. Kiba caught his breath and he was slammed into a tree. Hey, it's just a sword. Would it help if I promised to buy you a new one? Heard Kisame scream in rage. I guess not. Akamaru was at his side as he cast a jutsu. Hit and miss technique. Kisame continued moving towards Kiba's general direction. The only thought in his head that he would kill the wretched boy for what he had done. He was still focusing on how exactly he would tear him apart when he ran into a gigantic two-headed dog. To his horror, the huge dog did the most terrible thing imaginable. He lifted a hind leg and sent a stream of burning urine down on him. Kisame screamed as the urine burned like acid and he was forced to shut his eyes. The huge dog began to spin and was able to hit him full force and drive him into the earth. XXXXXXXXXX. From his hiding spot, Kakashi activated his Mangekyo and used its full power. Directly behind the motionless Itachi, the air seemed to turn black as a portal to another dimension opened. Before Itachi could even exit the effects of his own jutsu, he was pulled into the other dimension. The only sign of him left behind was a single sandal. XXXXXXXXXX. Regrouping, Kakashi was pleased to see a beaten and unconscious Kisame tied up and on Akamaru's back. Kakashi was glad to hear that both his teammates were relatively unhurt. He, however, was feeling the strain of having used the Mangekyo. Hinata was examining him with a worried look. Will I live? Kakashi teased. Of course you will, Hinata said. I was kidding, Hinata. Kakashi apologized. Kakashi-sensei, this is no time for jokes. You're suffering from chakra exhaustion. To be honest, I'm amazed you can still stand. My guess is you'll need at least a couple weeks rest to recover. She looked very worried. There is no way you can fight anymore. Kakashi nodded sheepishly. I shouldn't have used it, especially not when it wasn't the real Itachi. But I didn't think it would wipe me out like this. He let out a sigh. We'll have to retreat for now and wait for reinforcement from Konoha. No, Hinata said. Kakashi-sensei, you rest here. Kiba-kun and I will go ahead with the rescue. No, you will not, Kakashi said sharply. Hinata, with me incapacitated, this team is no longer strong enough to have any chance of rescuing Naruto. Especially not since they obviously know we're here. The real Itachi and Kabuto are still out there waiting, not to mention however many more Akatsuki. Pushing forward would only lead to your deaths. So you want us to do nothing and let them just kill Naruto-kun? She demanded. Hinata, I have read up on all the files concerning Akatsuki. The ceremony to remove the Kyuubi will take 3 full days. We have that much time to save him. Within that time the reinforcements from Konoha will be here and we will fight alongside them. Right now our course of action is to withdraw and then get all the information we can from Kisame before we eliminate him. Eliminate him? Hinata asked. Kakashi nodded firmly. He has a kill on sight order signed by the Hokage. Besides which with me incapacitated it would be far too dangerous to try and keep him prisoner. We will get all the information we can from him before we carry out the order. Hinata wanted to argue but didn't. If it helped save Naruto she was ready to do anything. She looked off to the west, the direction they'd been heading. Please hold Naruto-kun, hold on just a little bit longer. XXXXXXXXXX. That was a most interesting encounter, Itachi said as both he and Kabuto stood. Even though their opponents had only 30% of our chakra they did quite well. Not to mention that they succeeded in capturing Kisame. Speaking of your blue skin pal, what do you want to do about him? Kabuto asked. Nothing, Itachi replied simply. Kabuto looked surprised. You're going to abandon him? I thought he was a friend of yours. I told you before that you did not know me. I have no friends, they are nothing but a detriment. While it is true I did somewhat enjoy Kisami's company, I rescued him previously for my own reasons. Likewise, I abandon him now for my own reasons. Let us return to the ceremony. With that the two of them headed back to base, their mission accomplished. 70. Nearly done. She couldn't sleep. She looked at her watch again. A whole 2 minutes had passed. It had been 2 full days since Naruto had been captured. Now it was only a question of hours. Kisame had given them valuable information on what was going on and on the layout of the Akatsuki base. After which Kakashi had dispatched him quickly and cleanly. Pakun had then gone out to confirm the location of the base. With that done, Kakashi had written up a report with everything they knew and sent Pakun to the Hokage. Now they had to wait. She checked her watch again, 2 more minutes had passed. Hinata-chan, you should be resting. A worried Kiba spoke. Beneath him Akamaru whimpered in concern. I can't sleep, she said simply. Kiba was facing an odd role reversal. Usually he was the impetuous one and Hinata was the voice of reason. But she had been the one wanting to go out alone if necessary while he'd had to convince her the best chance was to wait. It won't be long now. They'll be here before dawn and then we'll all go kick some ass and save him. He chuckled. Then you can call him a baka for letting himself get captured in the first place. I won't yell at him, she said quietly. I'm just going to hold him and never ever let him go again. He could see how depressed she was. She'd been this way since they'd arrived at this little village about 10 miles from where they'd fought. He decided to try and change the subject. How is Sensei doing? I checked on him about an hour ago. He's resting comfortably. There's really nothing I can do about chakra exhaustion, he just needs time to recover. She sighed. He'll have to stay here when we go. Kiba nodded. They had already talked about this. I'll summon his nin dogs and they'll protect him while we're gone. She just nodded. Hinata-chan, he's going to be alright. You'll see, by this time tomorrow. He'll probably be complaining that he could have escaped on his own. I know he's alright. He had to be. She refused to acknowledge any other possibility. We'll save him and everything will be just fine. She looked at her watch and prayed for this horrible wait to end. XXXXXXXXXXX. Even using soldier pills the body still needed some rest. The Hokage had called for a 4-hour halt to give everyone a chance to rest and eat. Having received the exact location of the hidden base from Kakashi, they would be there before dawn. Then they would show the Akatsuki what hell was. And they would get her boy back. You should be resting. A familiar voice called to her. So should you, Tsunade. Kushina didn't bother to turn around. She kept her eyes on the southern horizon. Well, I have to make sure everything and everyone is all right before I can rest. Tsunade said. What's your excuse? She teased. That I'm his mother and I can't stop thinking about what my poor baby is suffering right now. An uncomfortable silence fell between them for a moment. He's going to be all right, you know. Tsunade said gently. Naruto is strong, he'll be fine. I know, Kushina answered and stared hard out into the darkened landscape. XXXXXXXXXX. There was no pain. He just seemed to exist. There was just light. He looked down at his hands. Whose hands are these? Oh, that's right, they're mine, aren't they? As he watched scenes from his life began to play out before him. A little 3 or 4-year-old Naruto fell and began to cry. His mother picked him up and consoled him. She began to rock him back and forth in her arms and soon he was smiling, the tears forgotten. A slightly older Naruto was playing with an equally young and innocent Hinata. There he was lying on the floor and listening as his niece told him a story about his dad. His godmother and his aunt Shizune were smothering him with kisses. Kirby Granddad stood there proudly as Naruto signed the frog summoning contract. He was laughing as Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba all chased after Gamakichi again. He thanked Ino for bringing all those beautiful flowers to him in his hospital room and for cheering him up. He laughed as Lee jumped about excitedly after finally finishing the full 10-hour workout. Haku reached out and took his hand, becoming a friend. He saw a happy Alyssa asking to braid his hair. He sat in a rowboat and listened to stories as he and his granduncle fished. I was loved and needed by a lot of people. I was blessed. It really was a good life. I don't want to leave them. He felt a hand on his shoulder. I am very proud of you, my son. He looked to see a face that was familiar only from pictures in the monument. Dad, is it really you? He gave him a wide smile. Real enough, son. Naruto reached out and hugged him and found that his arms could really touch him. Dad, I missed you. Naruto could feel his father's arms drape around him comfortingly. I missed you too, son. I love you, Naruto, and I hope you can forgive me for what I did to you. I love you too, Dad. Naruto choked the words out. And of course I forgive you. You were the Hokage, it was your duty to protect Konoha. I know why you chose me and I understand it. I never wanted to leave you, son, or your mother. I love you both more than anything in the world. I am so sorry that you had to suffer for what I did. I wanted them to see you as a hero. I know that, Dad. He looked up at his father questioningly. Have I died? Is this the afterlife? No, son, this is a place between life and death. Am I about to die then? He frowned. I don't want to leave the people I love, especially Mom and Hinata-chan. I know, son, but it is not your choice. I cannot see what is going to happen. You may live or you may die. If you pass on, son, I will be there to guide you along the path. If you live, there is something very important you must know. What? A secret. Listen closely as I tell it to you and burn the words into your mind or they will be lost. Naruto listened carefully to his father's words and did his best to sear them into memory. XXXXXXXXXX. Finally, Hinata saw them coming in the pre-dawn. She, Kiba, and Akamaru were at the rendezvous point. As they stood there, the reinforcements they had been waiting for had finally arrived. Hinata, Kiba, are you both ready to lead us to the base? Tsunade was wasting no time. She and everyone with her had rested for a grand total of 8 hours in the last 3 days. But thanks to the soldier pills, they all had plenty energy for what lay ahead. Kiba nodded. We can take you straight there. Tsunade frowned. Since only the two of you are here, I guess Kakashi really is incapacitated. I am very sorry, Tsunade-sensei. Hinata spoke up. He is suffering from chakra exhaustion and there was nothing I could do. I know, I suppose I was just hoping for a miracle. All right, she turned to everyone in her group. You all know what we're up against and what is at stake. Fight to the full limit of your abilities and be ready to kill. Anything less and you won't survive. Now let's get Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. The leader of the Akatsuki looked down on the suspended form of the Kyuubi's container. Like molasses, the chakra slowly oozed out of the Jinchuriki's mouth and eyes and was absorbed into the statue. The astral form frowned with displeasure. It seems we are to be interrupted yet again, and this time by a larger force. It is fortunate that Sasori and Deidara are also present now. Sasori, Deidara, Itachi, and Kabuto, as you are the only ones physically in attendance, you shall have to deal with them. You need only delay them for a short time, we are nearly done here. XXXXXXXXXX. Byakugan. They were within 2 miles of the enemy base, so Hinata was using her bloodline to take a look. She and Kiba had not been able to get this close before. What do you see? A worried Kushina asked. I see 4 ninjas waiting outside the base. I recognize them from our mission to Torike. We have Itachi, Kabuto, Sasori, and Deidara. I don't know Sasori's powers, but Deidara can make explosives from clay. He can make them fly with great speed and accuracy and can make clay models large enough for him to fly on as well. Hinata said. Just how powerful are his explosives? Tsunade asked. I saw him destroy whole buildings. Hinata said. Kiba nodded in vigorous support. Can you see Naruto? Tsunade asked. She hesitated. Yes, but not clearly. He's within the base in a lower level. There's some weird statue there. He's being drained of his chakra. She looked frightened. I can't be sure, but I don't think he has much time left. Then I guess we'll just have to do this fast and hard. Tsunade grimaced. XXXXXXXXXX. They are coming straight at us with no attempt at diversion or surprise. Itachi said calmly. They are very brave, Kabuto said. They are very stupid, Sasori commented gruffly as he pulled out a scroll. Deidara laughed as he created a clay bird large enough to ride on. Yeah, maybe they're just brave and stupid. He leapt on. No, Itachi stated. They are desperate and know they have little time left. Yeah, well, it's fine with me. He lifted into the air. I'll show them all that my art is a real bang. Just remember not to blow us up along with them. Sasori called out. Deidara's only reply was a happy laugh. Sasori muttered something about being a child. Kabuto smiled and looked to his stoic partner. You worried at all? No, this should be quite an interesting fight. XXXXXXXXXX. As they approached the base, they all saw Deidara dive down at them. Out of his hands fell half a dozen miniature clay birds. With a poof, they became life-size and sped downwards. Look out, Hinata screamed. They're explosives. The leaf nins all dodged out of the way as 6 explosions detonated around them. None of them were killed or even hurt. But an attack that had begun with a minimum of preparation was thrown into complete chaos as they were forced apart into groups. XXXXXXXXXX. Bah, this is going to be too easy. Like lambs to the slaughter. He activated his scroll and 100 puppets suddenly came into existence. I hope some of them will at least make interesting additions to my collection. Have a care, Sasori, some of them might surprise you. Itachi flickered away. He knew exactly who he wanted to fight. XXXXXXXXXX. We're fighting puppets. Man, this is troublesome. Shikamaru was forced to dodge the large scythe of a puppet made to look like a reaper. My shadow jutsus don't work on puppets. Ino was desperately throwing kunai to no effect. Same for my mind and medical jutsus. Body expansion technique. Choji's form became 30 feet tall. Pulling out a metal cudgel, he smashed the reaper puppet to kindling. Well, my muscle works fine. Asuma focused his chakra into his trench knives and took another puppet apart. Shikamaru and Ino, stay close to me and Choji until we've dealt with these puppets. Ino hated feeling useless. She looked up and smiled. Shikamaru, take care of my body. What? Ino brought her fingers together into a square in front of her face. Mind transfer technique. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade brought her fist into a puppet and smashed it as she kept running forward. Kabuto, you traitor. Kabuto smiled even as he leapt back. Unlike some others, his ego was not stronger than his intelligence. He had no desire to face Tsunade in an open fight. Hello Tsunade-sensei, nice to see you again. Don't call me that, you traitor. Kabuto chuckled. Actually, I don't consider myself a traitor at all. I was always loyal, just not to you or Konoha. Come here. She smashed the ground with a kick, forcing Kabuto to leap. She leapt after him, determined to get some payback for his crimes. XXXXXXXXXX. Yosh. Now this is truly a workout. Fighting these puppets is much better than using simple training posts. Guy had already opened the first gate and had given himself enough raw power to break the puppets that got near to him. There's a difference, sensei. Tenten called out. Training posts aren't trying to kill you. Though she preferred to use thrown weapons, she could also fight effectively with a sword as she was doing now. That is what is making this such an excellent workout. When we return to Konoha, I will see about purchasing some puppets for our regular training sessions. Guy spoke enthusiastically as he continued to smash the things with his fists and feet. Guy was suddenly forced to dodge as a huge metal tail tried to skewer him. You are beginning to annoy me. The blocky Sasori called out. Guy sent his opponent a dazzling smile and a thumbs up. Yosh, those who lack the fires of youth often feel that way. Along with most people, Tenten muttered to herself. Sasori was suddenly surrounded by a green whirlwind. What is this? Guy-sensei, Lee called out. I will deal with our enemy. Out of the whirlwind, Lee delivered a kick with enough power to send even the heavy and bulky puppet body high into the air. Lee then launched himself. Imagining himself to be no more than the shadow of a leaf, he took position behind Sasori and wrapped his bandages around him. Primary Lotus. With terrifying speed and power, Sasori was driven down into the hard earth. XXXXXXXXXX. Rotation. Hinata spun, forcing chakra out as a shield and sending a number of poisoned kunai and blades flying away. She leapt out and readied to fight some more. She was very glad that Tsunade had taught her how to concentrate chakra in her fists. Otherwise her gentle fist would have been useless. Kiba and Akamaru were at her side panting. There are a whole lot of these damn puppets. Kiba complained. It doesn't matter how many there are. I would fight 1,000,000 of them if I had to. She spotted something. Dodge. She and Kiba leapt away just in time to avoid an explosion from a clay bird. XXXXXXXXXX. Deidara laughed, enjoying himself. He looked down at the scene of battle. Yeah, such complete and total chaos. Now that is good art. His hands were chewing clay as he wanted to make more art when his body suddenly stiffened. Deidara came out of it and spoke in a slightly more girlish voice. Which was really saying something. All right, mind transfer was a success. Now I just need to, eek. Looking down from the back of the clay bird, Ino suddenly learned something about herself that she had never suspected. She was afraid of heights. She quickly went from standing to lying on her stomach, clutching around the neck of her bird. XXXXXXXXXX. What is that troublesome girl doing? Shikamaru asked. Deidara had stopped circling overhead and was now flying somewhat erratically away. She just might be having trouble controlling his ability, Asuma pointed out as he continued to fight. If she has taken one of the Akatsuki out of the fight, then she has done her job. Protect her body, Shikamaru, Choji said, worry obvious in his voice as he looked down on his unconscious girlfriend. Sensei and I will cover you. XXXXXXXXXX. Haku tried desperately to stay by Kushina-sama's side, but a pair of puppets cut him off. Senbons were useless against them. They sent some kunai flying towards him. He blocked them by raising an 8-foot wall of ice in front of him. In the past few years he had worked hard and greatly expanded the power of his Kekkei Genkai. Tayuya landed by his side playing her flute. Around them her 3 doki moved and blocked the attacks of other puppets while smashing one that got too close. We have to get to Kushina-sama. Haku called to her. Tayuya nodded as she continued to play her flute and maintain control of her doki as some more puppets pressed the attack. For the moment they could only watch. XXXXXXXXXX. You have my personal sympathies, Kushina. I truly regret the fate that was assigned to Naruto-kun. Seeing Itachi and hearing those words filled her with an absolutely murderous rage. You bastard. How dare you say that to me? With her katana she went after him. I'm going to kill you. Coming straight at him in a blind rage, Itachi had no trouble at all catching her line of sight and drawing her into Tsukuyomi. Kushina suddenly found herself standing on an endless colorless plain. What is this? A genjutsu? She brought her palms together. Kai. Her attempt to dispel had no effect. Here in the Tsukuyomi dreamscape I completely control time, space, and even all substance. Within this realm I am truly a god. A disembodied ethereal voice seemed to speak from everywhere and nowhere. Damn you, Itachi, show yourself. Kushina growled. I know that you do not believe me. However, the fact is that I deeply respect Naruto-kun. If it had been my choice I would have given him the chance to face me alone in battle. He could have died a swift and honorable death at my hands. A death worthy of a great shinobi. Unfortunately, my loyalty is to Akatsuki and it is the will of my organization that he meet a different end. Why are you telling me this? Do you think it will make any difference to me? Do you think it will make me want to kill you any less? Kushina demanded. No, I simply wanted to tell you the truth and offer you my condolences. I also wanted to give you the chance to mourn your loss. At her feet the lifeless body of her son suddenly came into being. I shall allow you to mourn him for 72 hours. Itachi, you bastard, she whispered. This isn't real. I refuse to believe this is real. My son is alive and well and I am going to see him again. She looked about. Itachi was nowhere to be seen. Show yourself, you coward, she screamed. There was no answer, only silence. She looked down at the unmoving body of her son. She turned away. This is an illusion and I won't believe no matter how long I am here. XXXXXXXXXX. Gabriella watched her beloved sensei freeze and understood immediately what had happened. Itachi. With her own Sharingan active she came at him. Spitfire technique. Itachi dodged away from the stream of fire effortlessly. Hello little cousin, it is nice to see you again. Congratulations on replacing my foolish little brother as clan heir. Itachi, you have no idea how much it shames me to have to admit that you are family. Ah, Gabriella, have you listened to everyone's opinion of me? I had hoped you might be strong enough to think for yourself. She looked at him in shock. Think for myself. What do you think? I wouldn't hate you if it weren't for others. You killed your own father, you poisoned Sasuke somehow, and you betrayed everyone who trusted you. She readied her sword. Trust me, cousin, I don't need any help to hate you. Kushina suddenly fell to one knee. Gabriella looked over to her. Sensei, are you all right? Panting, Kushina lifted her head. Though tears were flowing, she focused on Itachi, who could feel her killer intent rising and rising. Your mind was not broken. I am truly impressed, Kushina. I showed Naruto an image of me killing you over and over again for 72 hours and it completely destroyed him. Obviously your attachment to him is not as strong as his to you. Kushina slowly got back up to her feet and readied her sword. What could a heartless monster like you ever know about the love a mother has for her child? For what you did to me and for what you did to him, I will kill you now. She went forward determined to end his life once and for all. XXXXXXXXXX. As the desperate battle raged outside within the base, all was quiet and calm. Pain simply nodded as the final bit of the chakra was withdrawn from the Jinchuriki. With the process at last complete, the empty husk was allowed to fall to the stone floor. The body was now but an empty and discarded container. We are done now, Pain informed them. 71. My choice. With her Byakugan active, she saw it. She saw Naruto's body being dropped to the floor, discarded. Saw that Naruto no longer had chakra or a heartbeat or life. No, she whispered. Oh Kami, no. Her hands dropped to her sides and her shoulders slumped as all will to fight, or even move, left her. A puppet with a spiked club for an arm came at her. She made no effort to try and escape it. Hinata. Kiba threw his twisting form into the puppet. His lightning fang tore it apart before it could reach her. As soon as that was done, he landed by her side. Hinata, what's wrong with you? We're in the middle of a battle. You can't lose focus here. She barely heard him as she fell to her knees and began to sob. It didn't matter now, nothing mattered. Naruto-kun, she cried out as her heart broke. XXXXXXXXXX. Itachi heard his leader's command within his mind. It seems the extraction is now complete. I have no reason to continue this battle. What do you mean? Kushina asked furiously. The Kyuubi has been extracted and Naruto is now dead. Again, you have my condolences. I don't believe you, you damn liar. You will see for yourself soon enough. With a hand sign he was gone. Kushina was left there, still furious and without a target for her rage. I don't believe him, she muttered angrily. Sensei, Gabrielle asked. Kushina looked around for the nearest enemy, but to her great surprise the fighting seemed to be over. Akatsuki's sudden withdrawal from such a pitched battle did not please her. It actually scared the hell out of her. She looked over to her student. Come on, we need to find Tsunade so we can head into the base. I don't believe Itachi. I don't. XXXXXXXXXX. A hatch popped open and out of the now ruined puppet a red-haired boy climbed out. He sent Guy and especially Lee a hateful glare. You've ruined my second favorite puppet. He stopped for an instant as though listening for something. And it seems I will not even be able to properly punish you. Bah, I'll deal with the two of you another day. He disappeared in a swirl of wind and sand. All about the battlefield the remaining puppets came to halt and fell to the ground inanimate. XXXXXXXXXX. Despite her very best efforts, Ino had not been able to control the clay bird she was riding on a slow descent towards the forest. I am never ever doing this again with someone who is flying. Deidara wailed as the ground approached. Waiting until the last instant, Deidara slammed his palms together. Kai. He stiffened for an instant and then came to his senses. Right before slamming into a tree. What? Sometime later, when he finally got his bruised and battered body out of a tangle of shrubs and tree limbs, he was not happy. XXXXXXXXXX. Kabuto smiled at the woman he still dodged away from. Well, it seems like my work here is done. Too bad about Naruto. Better luck next time. What do you mean? Tsunade demanded. But Kabuto's only answer was a cheery wave goodbye before leaving in a puff of smoke. Tsunade stopped and looked about. It seemed that they had won. The fighting was over as all the Akatsuki members seemed to have fled. She felt a cold stab of fear. I have a bad feeling about this. XXXXXXXXXX. It took 5 minutes to reach the underground chamber. A number of lethal traps slowed them up just a bit. A broken Hinata warned them where they were and how to avoid or deactivate them. She had told them that they were too late. But Tsunade rushed ahead as fast as possible on the slim hope that somehow she might be wrong. Tsunade's fist smashed open the door to the chamber. It was a vast and empty space, completely empty. Except for one thing. Naruto. Kushina screamed and ran to her son's side. She dropped to her knees and pulled him up into her arms. His eyes did not open and his head lolled back. She performed a diagnostic jutsu. There was no heartbeat. There was no breath. His body was empty of chakra. He was dead. She held him tighter and pressed her weeping face into his cheek. He was still warm. No, 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 oh baby please no. Oh Naruto-kun, my baby, open your eyes and look at me. She began to rock him back and forth in her arms. It's all right my baby, everything is all right. Mother is here now and I won't let anyone ever hurt you. In a voice choking back sobs she began singing a lullaby to him. Right by her side Hinata also knelt down. She couldn't speak. The sorrow in her heart seemed too much to overcome. She let her tears flow and gently took one of his hands and held it in her own. Everyone gathered around in a respectful silence at the heart-wrenching scene. There were tears and silent prayers spoken. Unable to look on, Ino buried her face into Choji's chest. He held her and tried to comfort her. Kiba, Shikamaru, Choji, Haku, Yamato, and Lee all felt the terrible pain as well of losing someone they had long known and cared for. Even those who had not known him well, or not known him at all, were deeply saddened by the sight. Tsunade slowly approached. As she moved, time seemed to melt away. Looking down, she saw Naoki's face there. Then she saw Dan's. She remembered the day he had been born. She had been the one to bring him into the world. Her face was the very first thing his eyes had ever seen. She remembered his 12th birthday, when she had given him the necklace. Knowing you has healed my heart and allowed me to love again. She reached behind her neck and unclasped the necklace. After Dan died, I swore I would never give this to anyone else. But I've decided that once more, just once more, I will put the odds on you. Tsunade, you can't. It's too much. Kushina gasped. Tsunade looked at her and shook her head. All this is proof of my faith in your son. She turned back to Naruto. Naruto-kun, I accepted the position of God. I'm Hokage so I could make sure you would reach your dream one day. Become the good man and great ninja I know you will be, and when the time comes I will name you my successor. She placed the necklace around his neck. Accept from me this necklace and with it my blessing. She leaned forward and kissed his forehead. Naruto hugged her as hard as he could. I love you, godmother. I love you too, Naruto. Tsunade whispered. Kushina heard the words and suddenly looked up. Tsunade, she pleaded. Isn't there anything you can do? It can't be too late. He's still warm. Isn't there something you can do? And to everyone's surprise, even Kushina's, Tsunade nodded. Yes, there is. There were gasps from near every throat. Hinata's head suddenly snapped up. There is. Kushina was ready to grasp any straw. Her eyes filled with a desperate hope. Again Tsunade slowly nodded. There is a jutsu, she explained in a quiet voice as she knelt down as well. I developed it during the time I was still trying to run away. I was determined to never lose anyone again. So between gambling sprees and bouts of drunken self-pity I would work on an ultimate healing jutsu, one that could cure even a mortal wound. One that could cure even death so long as the body was still intact. She noticed something as she gently took Naruto from his mother's arms and laid him back down on the floor. They didn't take his necklace. I guess the only thing they cared about was the Kyuubi. Tsunade-sensei, Hinata managed to speak. I have never heard of such a jutsu. There's a very good reason for that. Tsunade answered. I never taught it to anyone, not even Shizune. I decided that it was a forbidden technique. But why? Hinata asked. Why would you make such a wonderful jutsu forbidden? Because of the cost. Tsunade said quietly. In order to restore a life, the caster's life must be sacrificed. Much like the jutsu used by Minato to seal the Kyuubi, the life restoration jutsu requires the sacrifice of a human life. Kushina looked to her friend. Take my life for his, I give it gladly. There were shouts as some told her she could not do such a thing while others also offered to make the sacrifice. Quiet. Tsunade shouted and everyone quieted down. She looked to her friend and shook her head. It has to be the caster's life. Then teach me this jutsu and I'll perform it. Kushina said. No, I'm not teaching it to you or anyone else. She sent Hinata a firm look. Kushina stared at her. Pain and hope and crushing sorrow were all plain to see. She slowly shook her head. I can't ask this. You never asked. It is my choice. I have had a good life. I've lived a lot longer than any ninja should and I've had more adventures than any 10 people could expect to. I've known love and friendship. I have had a full life. Reaching down, she gently touched his cheek. I want him to have won. I want him to have his dream and to be happy and to die an old man surrounded by fat grandchildren. I love Naruto, and just like you or Hinata or any of the others who love him, I would give my life to save his. Hokage-sama, you cannot do this. One of the Anbu spoke up. And why not? She asked calmly. Your duty as Hokage is to guard and protect the village. She nodded. Yes, that is my duty as Hokage, and that is what I am doing now. Despite my appearance, I am no longer young. I cannot protect Konoha's future, that is for Naruto to do. Every Hokage has sacrificed themselves to protect and safeguard the village. That is what I am doing now. Naruto will be the greatest of all Hokages, he will safeguard and protect Konoha better than I ever could. And to help him with that, I give all of you one final order. She looked about for a moment. Everything that has happened here is an S-rank secret. No one is to know the details of how I died or how Naruto was rescued. I don't want a bunch of fools hating him for something that was not his fault. He has already had enough of that in his life. She saw nods from everyone, including the Anbu operative who had questioned her. Tsunade, I don't know how to thank you for this. Kushina struggled to get the words out. Tsunade reached out and hugged her friend. There's no need, he's my godson after all. But I would like you to pass on a pair of messages for me. Kushina nodded eagerly. Of course. First, tell Naruto not to feel any guilt over my death. I know he would give his life to save the people he loves. I am doing the same. Second, she hesitated just a bit. Please tell Jiraiya that I know he loves me. Tell him that I am very sorry that I could not return his feelings. Tell him I care for him, even if he is a loudmouth pervert. She smiled fondly. And tell him I'm sorry about the salt. Salt. He'll know. She looked to Hinata. There is also one thing I'd like you to promise me as well, Hinata. Anything, Tsunade-sensei. Just always be there when he needs you, even if he doesn't want to admit that he does. Hinata nodded fiercely. I will always be there for him and will never let him go again. Tsunade smiled. You are a good girl, Hinata, and Naruto is very lucky to have you. At last she looked down at his form and began forming dozens of hand signs faster than any eye could follow. Except those with the Sharingan. Now then. She completed the jutsu and placed both hands upon his chest. Green chakra surrounded her entire form as she poured not only chakra but her life energy into him. The silence was total as every eye watched as the God-I'm Hokage began to sweat and to pant. Kushina put an arm around her both to support her and offer comfort. As Tsunade poured more and more of herself into the transfer, she could feel herself weakening and beginning to become cold. She had no second thoughts. She loved him like a son and was as willing as his mother to sacrifice herself for his sake. Out her life force flowed into him. She was growing tired very quickly, but she would last long enough to finish it, and then she would rest. I am very sorry I will never get to see you as Hokage, my sweet boy. I know you will make me proud just as you always have. Be a great Naruto-kun and always do what you know to be right. The future is yours. As she neared the end, she felt his heart begin to beat again and chakra pulsed once more. He's alive, Hinata cried out joyously. And as if to prove it, he gasped and opened his eyes. He looked up in confusion. Godmother, he barely whispered. She smiled. I love you, Naruto. With that, she shut her eyes and fell back to be caught by Kushina. Carefully holding her, Kushina set her down gently on the stone floor. He felt completely weak and exhausted. The last time he'd felt like this was after being beaten near to death by that Jonin while he was an academy student. His mind was fuzzy and he didn't know what was happening. He saw Hinata kneeling over him crying and he could feel her gentle touch on his cheek. Hinata-chan, he rasped out. Am I dead? Is this heaven? And she smiled for him. No, my Naruto-kun, you're alive. Leaning down, she kissed him and then pressed her cheek to his as she wept. You're alive. 72. The Rokudaime Hokage. The sun was climbing up into the sky. After everything that had happened, they had all pretty much agreed a rest was called for. They had searched out the base to find it containing nothing of real value. There was nothing that hinted where other bases might be or what future plans Akatsuki might have. A pair of the Anbu had been sent to retrieve Kakashi and bring him over. After what had happened, there had been condolences and words of sympathy. But surprisingly little more had been said to him. What was there to say exactly? How long are we going to leave him alone? Hinata said worriedly. Leave him be, Hinata. Kushina said calmly. After everything he has been through, he needs a little time. Well, he needs to eat. She took a small bowl filled with rice. As a medic nin, I know how much he needs food right now to get his strength back. She began walking towards him. Kushina watched her go with a small smile, secretly pleased to see Hinata behaving very much like a wife. They were all outside having lunch and resting. Given the strain they had all endured to get here, it only made sense now to get some food and rest before making the trip home. Everyone turned to look as Hinata left the group and headed off. XXXXXXXXXX. When he had first been revived, he'd been as weak as a kitten and badly disoriented. He had slowly recovered some strength along with his senses. At that point, Kushina had taken him aside and explained what had happened. After that, he had begged to be left alone for a while and gone a ways into the nearby forest. Hinata's instinct had been to go after him, but Kushina had convinced her and the others to give him some time alone. Hinata had kept an eye on him with her Byakugan just in case. Now he'd had a few hours and Hinata was going to see him whether he wanted her to or not. XXXXXXXXXX. He was just sitting there, his back against a large oak. As she approached him, she knew he could sense her presence, but he didn't react. He just sat there looking off into the distance. She came to a halt about 10 feet from him and just waited for a bit. It would be easier if he would acknowledge she was there. But he just sat there. Finally, she spoke up. Naruto-kun, you need to eat something. I brought you some nice steamed rice. I'm not hungry, he said dully. Naruto-kun, you haven't eaten in 3 days. You need to eat to regain your strength. I'm not hungry, Hinata-chan. I'll eat a ration bar later. She sighed. A ration bar was actually healthier than a bowl of rice. The only bad thing about them was that they tasted like pasty cardboard. Fine. She set the bowl down and reached into a pouch. She pulled out a ration bar and approached him holding it out. Here, eat it now. He looked over to the offering without any enthusiasm. I'll have it later. Naruto-kun, I am not leaving here until I see you eat something. She said in a firm voice. He looked up at her face. With a resigned sigh, he took the bar from her and unwrapped it. He shoved about half of it into his mouth and slowly began to chew. He had to stop and drink some water from his canteen. She could see him make a face as he kept on chewing. Well, he could have had rice. Finally, he swallowed the nutritious, if bland, paste in his mouth. Without a word, he shoved in the rest of the bar and took another swig of water. Hinata stood there patiently as he chewed and chewed. Finally, he swallowed it down. He looked at her with a frown. Happy now? She slowly nodded. I just wanted to get you to eat something. Well, now I've eaten. He looked away from her again and stared off into the forest. She waited there for a long moment, hoping he would say something more to her. Finally, she picked the bowl back up. I'm sorry if I'm bothering you, she said quietly and turned to leave. Hinata-chan. He called to her and she stopped in her tracks. Hinata-chan, I'm sorry if I'm being a jerk. You never bother me. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything right now. It was one of the very few times she had ever seen or heard him be confused. It's all right, Naruto-kun, after everything that has happened, you're allowed to be a bit of a mess. But please don't push away all the people who want to help you. Her voice ached. I don't want to see you all alone. He slowly nodded and tried to smile. It was a pale imitation of his usual smile, but she was still glad to see it. Naruto-kun, can I please sit with you? She asked longingly. It might have been a bit selfish of her, but she wanted to be with him. She ached just for the simple comfort of his body resting against hers. He slowly nodded. Sure, Hinata-chan. With a relieved sigh, she put the bowl down again and sat down beside him. He put an arm around her and she snuggled close to him as she rested her head on his warm shoulder. Nothing more was said between them as they just sat there in a comforting silence. XXXXXXXXXX. I wonder what Hinata is going to say to him. Haku spoke. She is probably going to tell him just how much she loves him and just how relieved she is that he's alright. Gabriella said quietly. Tayuya grinned. Or maybe she's going to push him down on the grass and show him how much she loves him. Gabriella shot her teammate an angry look. Do you have to be so damn vulgar? Tayuya stiffened and gave the other girl a harsh look of her own. What the hell is vulgar about it? If the boy I loved came back from the dead, you had better believe that's exactly what I'd do. She sent Haku a sidelong glance. Hey, I saw that. Gabriella took a menacing step forward. Saw what, princess? Tayuya took a step forward as well. With a tired sigh, Haku stepped between them. As on so many other occasions, he tried to play peacemaker. Do you two really want to fight with everyone watching? The two girls sent him identical looks that were equal parts annoyance and hostility. Before either of them could say or do anything more, Guy suddenly shouted. Yosh, someone is coming. That immediately got everyone's attention. People got to their feet and looked on as a figure leapt out of the forest. The ninja landed near them and immediately bent over and put his hands on his knees as he was panting. I guess, I missed it. Jiraiya caught his breath. Is Naruto alright? Kushina, Guy, Asuma, and Tenzo all shared a look. Yes, Naruto-kun is fine. Kushina was finally the one to answer. He and Hinata are off on their own right now. Jiraiya smiled and looked relieved. I knew the kid would be alright. I'm just sorry I didn't get here in time to help. He looked around. So where is Tsunade? Knowing her, she probably wants to yell at me for being late. Kushina took a deep breath. Jiraiya, there is something I need to tell you. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade's body had been left inside where it was a bit cooler. She had been placed on a mat with her eyes closed and her hands folded upon her chest. In death she looked not at all like she had in life. Her concealing jutsu was gone. Her hair was mostly gray with only a bit of blonde still left. Her perfect skin was wrinkled with spots, especially along her arms. On her face were deep lines radiating from her eyes and the corners of her mouth. She was revealed as what she truly was, a woman in her late 50s who had seen a lot of travel and lived a lot of life. To Jiraiya she was every bit as beautiful as she had always been. Oh Tsunade, he whispered. He looked to Naruto and Kushina, who were the only others present. You know, it's almost funny. I never once thought I'd be the last Sannin. She was the one with the family name and all the natural talent. Orochimaru was the genius. And me, I was the fool, the screw-up. He chuckled dryly. But here I am, last one standing. He fell silent. The three of them just stood there looking down at her. Do you hate me? Naruto suddenly asked in a choked sob. Kushina and Naruto both looked at him startled. This was my fault. She died because of me. Jiraiya reached out and grabbed him by the front of his shirt and yanked him forward so they were face to face about an inch apart. Don't ever say that again, kid. Jiraiya growled at him. She died because of the Akatsuki, not because of you. She made a choice, Naruto, just like your father did, just like the old man did. Don't blame yourself, kid, cause I don't. Naruto felt the shame consume him. He also was very afraid what Jiraiya would think of him. But he swallowed and told him. Itachi captured me because I was stupid and arrogant. I got a message at my hotel saying there was an Anbu messenger waiting for me to deliver a special message. I knew that wasn't standard procedure. Even if the message was for me, it would have been sent through my squad leader, Kakashi. I should have known better. I should have called in Kakashi and the rest of my team. But I honestly thought that Tsunade was giving me a special mission only I could handle. And when I got there, I knew it was Itachi. I decided to fight. I didn't try to call for help or to run. Maybe I couldn't have, it was over so quick, maybe it was already too late. But I didn't try to call for help because I figured I was tough enough to handle it. Naruto cast his eyes down, no longer able to bear looking at Jiraiya's. Naruto, how could you do something so stupid? Jiraiya's voice was not angry but frustrated. How many times did I remind you that Akatsuki would always be a danger to you? How many times did I warn you to be aware of possible traps? And just how many times did I try to drive the concept of strategic withdrawal into that thick skull of yours? What, did you really believe that just because you could pull of the Hiraishin that you were invincible? Jiraiya could see the boy's face redden. You did, didn't you? Naruto, if being a ninja taught you nothing else, it should have taught you that anyone can be taken out with the right circumstances. No one is invincible all the time. I know that. He whimpered. I'm so sorry. Jiraiya let go of his grip and took a deep breath. Naruto, look at me. Naruto hesitated before raising his eyes to look at the older man's face. Jiraiya was frowning but did not seem angry. Naruto flinched a bit as Jiraiya placed a hand on his shoulder. Listen, kid, I'm not going to lie, what you did was stupid. And you really should have known better. But that said, even if you had done the smart thing and called in your team, there is still a chance you would have been captured. With an enemy like Itachi after you, there was always a chance of that, especially when you were away on a mission. If you had been captured through no fault of your own, things would have played out exactly the same way. Learn from your mistake, Naruto, but don't blame yourself. That is the last thing Tsunade would have wanted. But if I had just what? Jiraiya cut off sharply. Been smarter, been stronger, then none of this would have happened. Maybe, Naruto flinched, and maybe you would have been captured 3 months from now instead. Maybe one of your teammates would have been killed. Maybe you would have been. So long as Akatsuki was determined to take you, the possibility of something like this happening was always there. You could have handled things better, Naruto, no doubt, but even if you had, there still might have been tragedy. Jiraiya looked away from him and back down at her. A ninja's life is filled with the tragic, Naruto, that is something you should already know well. Don't blame yourself, blame Akatsuki. Naruto very slowly nodded, relieved that Jiraiya did not hate him. Arigato. Don't thank me, kid, Jiraiya said as he took out a scroll, inkpot, and brush. I haven't done anything. He quickly filled out the scroll. Seal. Tsunade's body disappeared and was transferred into the scroll. I will carry her back to Konoha. He was not making a request. Kushina looked at her son and was careful to hide her disappointment. She'd expected better from him. She had taught him a long time ago not to take foolish chances. But looking at his sorrow, she knew the lesson had already been driven home. She would not say anything. Jiraiya had pretty much said it all anyway. XXXXXXXXXXX. As the three of them left the base, they saw everyone standing around waiting on them. One of the Anbu approached them and bowed. Naruto-sama, we have all eaten and rested. What are your orders? Naruto looked at the man in shock. What are you asking me for? Ask my mom or Jiraiya or Asuma. Despite the mask, Naruto could see the surprise on the man. But Naruto-sama, the man said carefully. You are now Hokage and therefore have final authority. Naruto stiffened and looked at the man as though he were insane. Are you kidding? I am not the Hokage. Yamato had removed his mask and stepped forward. Actually, Naruto, you were officially appointed successor with the approval of both Tsunade-sama and the council. By law, with the previous Hokage's death, you automatically become Hokage. With that, Yamato stiffened and performed a deep bow. Hokage-sama. The other Anbu did the same. And not just the Anbu. Hokage-sama, Asuma said and bowed. Hokage-sama, Guy said and bowed. Lee eagerly followed his sensei's example, as did Tenten. Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji all looked at one another before they also bowed and acknowledged him Hokage. Hokage-sama. Haku bowed to him with a happy smile. Gabriella offered a formal bow while Tayuya bent forward just a bit and mumbled something. Hinata sent him a blissful look as she offered him a deep informal bow. Hokage-sama. Kiba looked amused but bowed as well. Kakashi was lying on his back but offered a wave. Seeing so many of the people he cared for actually bowing to him and calling him Hokage seemed surreal to him. But there hasn't been any ceremony. I can't be Hokage. Jiraiya grinned. Sorry to tell you this, kid, but the law says that you are. There'll still be a coronation, but that's just to give the public a chance to celebrate your installation. You really are the Rokudaime Hokage now. Try not to screw it up. And with that, Jiraiya took a step back and offered him one of the very few bows he ever gave anyone. Hokage-sama. His mom smiled. Naruto grabbed her arm and whispered to her in panic. Mom, please don't, it's weird enough seeing Jiraiya and Hinata do it. Laughing, Kushina leaned forward and gave her son a kiss on the cheek. I'll consider that the very first order from the new Hokage. I am so very proud of you, Naruto-kun. He looked at her worriedly and whispered to her. Mom, I don't think I'm worthy of being Hokage. She nodded sympathetically and gave her son a hug. She whispered in his ear. It's all right, Naruto-kun, no one ever is. 73. The Secret. Author's note: now to start, I would like to go ahead and thank all of you who continue to read my story and leave reviews. To be honest, having over 4,000 reviews blows me away. I have written 9 other stories and combined they don't have a quarter as many reviews. Now I have noticed that quite a few people are upset with the direction this story is taking. I am sorry to see that, but in a way I take it as a compliment. That someone actually cares enough about this story to be upset by Naruto's behavior or Suon's death says a lot. That said, I will continue to write the story that I want and take it in the direction that interests me. Now I have also noticed that quite a few of you are wondering if this story is coming to its end. Rest assured it is not. Now that Naruto has achieved his dream, the story will move in a new direction that should be clear by the end of this chapter. I had thought about ending the story here and making a sequel, but have decided to continue it under one title. P.S. Any of you who would like to help me win a contest, please go to the fanfic site for Jesse Briseño. His ID number is 1,362,644 and vote for both this story and for me as author. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Everyone was getting ready to depart. XXXXXXXXXX. So she cared for me, Jiraiya said with a fond smile. Kushina nodded. What exactly did she mean by salt? Jiraiya chuckled but declined to explain. XXXXXXXXXX. Yash, my eternal rival, are you prepared to go? Without waiting for an answer, Guy grabbed him and put him on his back. The image was just a bit disturbing. This isn't really necessary, Guy. A panicked Kakashi spoke up. Nonsense, my eternal rival. As both a fellow Leaf Ninja and as your lifelong rival, it is my duty to aid you in your time of distress. Guy laughed. Besides, it will be good training. Hearing his sensei mention training, Lee's eyes lit up. He immediately turned to his teammate. Tenten saw the look in his eyes and took out a kunai menacingly. Don't even think about it. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto-kun, Hinata called to him. Before we go, there's something I want to give you. She pulled out her backpack and took something out that was covered by a blanket. Naruto looked at her curiously. What is it, Hinata-chan? She pulled back the blanket to reveal the object. Oh, my katana. He carefully took it from her. Arigato, Hinata-chan, I was afraid it was lost. She shook her head. I would never have left it behind, I know how much it means to you. He grinned and nodded. Yeah, he cut his palm. What are you doing? She asked crossly. Naruto looked a bit sheepish. Well, I did draw it to fight. That means I have to give it blood before I put it back. He quickly wiped the sword down and put it into his scabbard. Naruto-kun, you don't have the Kyuubi's chakra to heal you anymore. Hinata pointed out. Naruto just shrugged. Neither does my mom, she still does it though. It's an Uzumaki clan tradition, I know. Hinata sighed unhappily. She'd never liked this particular tradition. Well, let me heal you. She took his hand and examined the wound. Her eyes widened. Naruto-kun, look. A bit surprised by her reaction, he looked at his palm. The cut was almost completely closed. It had not healed as fast as it would have before, but it was close. I don't understand, I don't have the Kyuubi anymore, how can I still have my healing? Hinata smiled. It's probably a little like building up an immunity. If you get sick, your body learns how to fight off the sickness. So the next time you get the same infection, your body knows how to deal with it and is able to do so much more quickly. My guess is that after all the years of the Kyuubi's chakra being used to heal you, your body has developed the same method using your own chakra. And like before, you don't need to do anything, your body will heal you on its own. Seeing his big smile, she pressed on. But keep in mind that since this will be using your chakra instead of the Kyuubi's, it won't be as effective. Naruto slowly nodded. That makes sense, I guess. It's still a lot better than nothing. I wonder what else has stayed the same. With a little grin, Hinata reached out and stroked his cheek. Well, I'm going to miss your whiskers, I always thought they were cute. Kiba came over with Akamaru walking beside him. Hey Naruto, why don't you go ahead and ride on Akamaru on the way back? Akamaru yipped his agreement. Naruto shook his head. No thanks, I'll go on my own strength. Hinata shook her head and crossed her arms. No, you will not, Naruto-kun, you still haven't fully recovered. You can ride on Akamaru or I'll get Jiraiya to carry you. Naruto looked over to where Guy was walking around with Kakashi draped over his back and shuddered. You know, on second thought, I guess I could ride on Akamaru's back after all. XXXXXXXXXXX. It took them 3 days to get back to Konoha. Messages were sent ahead that the rescue had been successful, but with loss. Nothing more was revealed before they returned. Once they were back, an emergency meeting of the council was called. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto was pacing back and forth in a small room in the tower near the meeting room. I don't think I can do this. Naruto said again. Yes, you can, Naruto-kun. His mother answered yet again. You have been preparing for this your entire life. He turned to her. Mom, I'm only 15. I thought I would have a few more years to get ready. Will they even accept a 15-year-old Hokage? Of course they will, Naruto. Jiraiya affirmed. We live in a society where 12-year-olds can command adults 4 times their age and no one thinks twice about it. In the ninja world, it is ability alone that counts. I really don't think I'm ready for this. Naruto confessed. I've screwed up so badly. You have. Jiraiya decided not to minimize things. And if you make those same mistakes as Hokage, your entire village will suffer for them. Kushina gave him an unhappy look. She was trying to build up his confidence, not tear it down. Naruto frowned and stopped his pacing. Does that mean you think I should quit? Absolutely not, Jiraiya said. What it means is that you'll have to stop being stupid and reckless. I've known you your whole life, kid, so believe me when I say this. There is no one else that I would trust more to take care of this village. I know just how seriously you take this responsibility and how committed you are to it. The doubts you are feeling right now don't change the fact that you are ready for this. But what if I still make mistakes? Naruto asked. Jiraiya grinned. Oh, don't worry about that because I'll guarantee that you will make mistakes. Let me share a little secret with you, kid. All the Hokages made mistakes. They all made decisions that they regretted later on. And you want to know why? Because they were all human, and last I checked, all human beings are flawed. He chuckled. Well, I know a few Uchihas who would probably disagree. So I'm going into this knowing I'll be making mistakes. Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded. The trick is to not make any really big mistakes. In the end, Naruto, all you can do is your best. Do what you believe to be right, Naruto, and I know you will never go too far wrong. There was a knock on the door and Yamato stuck his head in. The council has assembled, Naruto-sama. Naruto nodded. It was still weird, but he was starting to get used to it. Thanks. He looked at Jiraiya and his mom. What if they ask me why I should be Hokage? What do I say? Tell them the truth, Naruto-kun. Kushina said firmly. Tell them you are the son of their greatest hero and have spent your entire life preparing for this. Tell them your loyalty to Konoha never wavered despite the hatred that met you. Tell them by the time you stepped foot in the academy you were as powerful as most of your teachers. Tell them that you killed the Kage and over 300 enemy ninjas when your village was attacked. Tell them you helped kill Orochimaru. Tell them you have been trained by 2 of the Sannin. Tell them that you, and you alone, successfully rediscovered your father's prized jutsu, the jutsu many consider the most powerful ever created in the Leaf Village. Tell them you were Tsunade's only choice to succeed her. And above all else tell them this, that you are Namikaze Naruto and you are the Rokudaime Hokage. Naruto slowly nodded. I am the Rokudaime Hokage. He took a deep breath and said it again. I am the Rokudaime Hokage. He headed out the door followed closely by Jiraiya and Kushina. XXXXXXXXXX. As the door to a meeting room opened all eyes turned towards the 3 of them. Kushina gave her son a quick hug and went over to her seat as Naruto and Jiraiya headed to the front of the table, the place normally reserved for the Hokage. Naruto had discussed what would need to happen with his mom and Jiraiya. He was legally Hokage and nothing short of a civil war could change that. But things would go much better for him if he had the council's support right from the start. Naruto's expression was blank now. He had pushed all the doubts away and would show them someone who was certain of himself. His eyes scanned the 15 members who were seated. His mom, Uncle Shinzo, Hiyoshi, Shikamaru, Choji, Asuma, and Sume. He was certain that they would support him. That gave him the backing of almost half the council right there. And with Jiraiya standing beside him he was sure he could get most of the others. He and Jiraiya stood at the head of the table near the empty chair. Naruto did not sit down, not yet. There were nervous looks on many of the faces. Of those present only he, Jiraiya, his mom, Shikamaru, Choji, and Asuma knew the truth. There had been no time to tell anyone before the meeting. Where is Tsunade-sama? Uchiha Ryuki asked. Jiraiya looked down the table and answered solemnly. I am afraid she is gone. She was the lone casualty of the fight against Akatsuki and the rescue mission. Jiraiya might as well have tossed an explosive note into the middle of the room. Suddenly everyone seemed to be standing and shouting. Well, everyone who did not already know. Naruto stood there and remained silent. His mom and Jiraiya had told him how this was likely to go and the last thing he wanted was to appear arrogant or to offend anyone on the council. How did this happen? Koharu's voice somehow cut through the noise and people quieted down to hear the answer. That I cannot tell you. Jiraiya replied. Before she died Tsunade declared all details of the mission to be an S-rank secret. The way he said it one would believe Jiraiya had heard it for himself. He had no intention of telling them he'd learned of her death hours after the fact. You mean to keep secrets from us? Danzo demanded. We are the Council of Konoha. Jiraiya smirked unimpressed. So what? There are plenty of things kept from the council. He sent Danzo an amused look. That's something you know quite well. Danzo looked displeased but did not argue. What are we to do now? Ryuki asked. About what? Shikamaru asked innocently. About the position of Hokage. Ryuki clarified. If the Hokage is dead then we must find a replacement immediately. It would be a dangerous sign of weakness for us to be without a strong leader. I'm sorry, Jiraiya spoke up. Were you not there when the council elected a successor? Ryuki's eyes widened as the full implications only now hit him. You can't mean to place Naruto into that position. Jiraiya frowned and sent the man a hard look. I mean exactly that. Naruto was nominated by Tsunade and was approved by a majority of this council. He was legally appointed successor and as per the law of succession he is Hokage now. That set off a whole new barrage of argument as Naruto's supporters and opponents argued with one another. He is too young and inexperienced to be Hokage. Yamanka Michio stated. He has been a Jonin since he was 12. He spent 2.5 years receiving training from me. To say nothing of the instruction he has received in preparation of becoming Namikaze clan head. Despite his youth he has seen more combat and difficult missions than most ninjas twice his age. Jiraiya declared. It is too dangerous to have him as Hokage given what is inside of him. Ryuki declared. You mean the Kyuubi? Naruto asked, finally breaking his silence. The room suddenly quieted down at the sound of that word. Taking a deep breath Ryuki nodded. Yes, I do not mean to offend you, but we cannot pretend that the Kyuubi does not exist. Naruto sent him a smile that had absolutely no humor behind. Well then, let me ease your mind. I no longer possess the Kyuubi. It was removed from me by the Akatsuki. The silence in the room was total as the implications of that one sentence struck home. What? Naruto looked around the table. Isn't that good news? Danzo was the first to find his voice. How can you possibly think it good that our enemies now have access to such incredible power? Oh, so now all of a sudden you want me to have the Kyuubi in my guts again? He sent him an angry glare. A minute ago Ryuki here was complaining I couldn't be trusted because I had the Kyuubi's power. Now you complain that someone else has it. I would love to know what it would take to make all of you happy. They all stared at him and his open display of anger. Even Jiraiya and Kushina were staring as this was no part of the plan to win over the council. Naruto looked at all of them and decided to give them all a very large dose of truth. I am sorrier than any of you will ever know that Tsunade-sama is gone, and that she died to save me. I loved her very much, and even though it was my dream to be Hokage, I never wanted it like this. I am sorry that I was captured, and I am sorry that the Akatsuki now have the Kyuubi. If I could change what has happened, I would. But all I can do is make sure that my godmother's sacrifice wasn't for nothing. With that, he slowly and deliberately sat down in the head chair. What do you think you are doing? Kaharu demanded. Sitting in my seat. Naruto answered. Whether any of you like it or not, I am the Hokage now, and if I have to, all fight for my position. If some of you feel that you cannot follow me, then I invite you to resign from this council, because I am not going anywhere. There were gasps at his blunt statement. I have decided that I am going to be Hokage. Not for myself and not for my father, but for everyone in this village. I may be young, but I know what needs to be done to protect Konoha, and I really think I am the only one who can do it. He looked about the table once again. I am sorry if this sounds arrogant, I don't mean it to be. But Konoha is in great danger. The Akatsuki and their leader are a greater threat than any this village has ever known, and I truly believe that I am the one who can stop them. I will stop them. I ask for your help. Help me to protect and guard Konoha. His last words were an open invitation to them. Surprisingly, it was Shikamaru who spoke next in a firm, calm voice. This whole situation is very troublesome. With the Kyuubi, the Akatsuki now possess the strongest piece on the board. That will make the game more difficult, but more interesting too. He looked from his fellow council members to Naruto. I have known Naruto since I was 8. And I can honestly say to you that there is no one else in the world I trust more. I would trust him with my life and with the fate of this village. Jiraiya also trusts him, as did the 5th. I say we can all trust him to lead us. Naruto smiled at his friend. Arigato, Shikamaru. Shikamaru nodded. I am at your service, Hokage-sama. With Shikamaru's acknowledgement, his other close supporters joined in, stating that they recognized him and would follow him. With so much strength revealed, most of the rest of the council went along. Except for one person. Yamanaka Mishio stood up. I will not recognize you as Hokage. Jiraiya frowned. You cannot sit on the council if you refuse to recognize the Hokage's authority. Then I resign, Mishio said with dignity. Naruto nodded and said not a word as Mishio left. He already knew who he wanted to take his place. I thank all of you for your support, and I promise I will give everything I have to protect this village. Now, if there are no objections, I would like to bring this meeting to an end. I would like to ask Jiraiya, my mother, and Shikamaru to remain. He looked over to where Yamato remained at attention. Yamato, could you please see if Kakashi is in condition to be moved? If he is, please have him come here as well. Hiyashi, could you please ask Hinata to come here? XXXXXXXXXX. Before long, the people he had asked for were in the meeting room. Kakashi was sitting in a wheelchair but seemed awake and well. Naruto had then requested Yamato to remain as well. Before him, Jiraiya, his mom, Hinata, Shikamaru, Kakashi, and Yamato waited for what he had to say. What is this about, kid? Jiraiya asked. You never said anything about a second meeting. Naruto nodded. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure how to go about this. Now, before I start, what I am going to tell you is an S-rank secret. No one outside this room is to be told about it. I ask for the 6 of you specifically because I would trust my life with any of you, and I am going to need your help. Naruto-kun, Hinata asked. Why isn't Kiba here too? And what about Haku? I trust Kiba and Haku, but I need to keep this to as few people as possible. Naruto explained. Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Yamato will be getting special missions from me, while I want you, Mom, and Shikamaru to be able to advise me and maybe go with me on missions. Kushina perked up. Son, you're Hokage now. You can't just leave the village to go on missions. Naruto shook his head. I'm going to have to, Mom. I'm the only one who can work the Hiraishin. That means there are certain things that only I can do. Why do I get the feeling this is going to be really, really troublesome? Shikamaru complained. Probably because it is. Now, along with being secret, I am going to ask all of you to keep an open mind about what I am about to tell you. The 6 of them all directed their attention to him. What is this about, Naruto-kun? His mother asked, worried. Naruto swallowed. It's about a secret that I was told as I was dying. What? Jiraiya spoke. The Akatsuki told you a secret. Naruto shook his head. No, it wasn't them. I don't remember who it was. When I try to remember, all I get is this fuzzy memory of someone trying to help me. Maybe it was a Shinigami or the ghost of someone I knew. All I know is that it was someone I knew I could trust. Looks passed between everyone. I know how this sounds. Look, kid, I'm sure you believe you got a message from beyond. But it's a lot more likely that it was a dream. Naruto shook his head. Shinigami are real. Souls are real. Hell is real. Demons are real. All these things we know to exist for a fact. They are as real, chakra. Is it that hard to believe that someone or something was able to speak to me? Can you prove it? Jiraiya asked. No, but I'm sure that the secret was real, and I intend to act on the information. It's too important not to. Naruto paused. To be honest, it's part of the reason I decided I had to be Hokage. If you are sure Naruto-kun, then I am too. Hinata said. Jiraiya grunted. Well, I won't go that far, but if you tell us what it is, I'll consider it. Naruto leaned back in his chair. I know what the Akatsuki mean to do with the Biju they are gathering. Jiraiya leaned forward. He was not sure how much faith he put in this, but he was interested. All right, I'll bite. What is it for? A weapon. Naruto answered simply. Their leader believes he can use the Biju to power a weapon that can destroy whole nations in an instant. He thinks having a weapon so terrible will force people to admit the futility of war and bring on a golden age of peace. That's horrible, Hinata said. Just imagining such a weapon filled her with dread. Oh, it's much worse than that, Hinata-chan. Naruto said quietly. Worse. Kakashi spoke up. What could be worse than the Akatsuki with a weapon that can lay waste to whole nations? The fact that it won't work, or maybe I should say it will work too well. The Biju cannot be used in the way their leader plans. Their power cannot be controlled once unleashed. If this weapon is used, it will release a fire that will never go out. He leaned back and shut his eyes. It will be the end of the world. 74. Thunderous applause. They were all just staring at him. So let me just clarify this. Shikamaru spoke up. The Akatsuki are trying to create a weapon that could destroy the whole world, and it's up to us to stop them. Naruto nodded. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Shikamaru slowly shook his head. All right, I take it back. Troublesome doesn't even begin to describe this. Naruto-kun, Hinata asked. Why aren't you telling the council this? Something this important, shouldn't they know about it? 2 reasons, Hinata-chan, Naruto said. 1, I don't think they'd believe me. Especially not if I told them where I was getting my intelligence from. If I were to go to them now with this, the council would just try to oppose me and maybe use it as an excuse to try and unseat me. If later on I decide I need to tell them, I'll say it's information that Jiraiya uncovered. You're going to lie to the council? Hinata sounded shocked. If I need to, Naruto said, a ninja village pretty much runs on secrets. If I have to keep a few, or more than a few, from the council, I will. Kami knows that Danzo and Ryuki have kept their share. Naruto, Kakashi spoke. What's the other reason? From what I can gather from Kisami's interrogation, none of the other members of Akatsuki know what the ultimate goal is. Right now Pain thinks it's his secret. I want him to keep thinking that. It gives us an advantage. All right, Shikamaru spoke slowly and certainly. Let's just assume for a moment that everything you've said here is true. The Akatsuki really do plan to blow up the world once they have all the Biju. How exactly do we stop them? There are 2 ways, and we're going to pursue both of them. First off, even with the Kyuubi, there are still other Biju out there. The Akatsuki won't act until they've acquired all of them. Wait a minute. Shikamaru spoke. What about the Shukaku one-tail that was in Gaara? There's no way for them to acquire all the Biju now. Naruto nodded. True, but Pain obviously believes he can still make things work with the remaining 8. We have to deny him those 8. And while we're at it, we need to kill him. Pain is the key. Building this weapon is his idea, and he is the sole motivating force behind it. Once he's dead, the threat from this weapon will be over. He looked at all the faces that were looking back at him. I know I'm asking for a pretty big leap of faith here. All I can tell you is that I'm sure enough about this to put my own life on the line for it. I believe you, Naruto, Jiraiya said quietly. You do, Naruto said with relief. Jiraiya nodded. I do. The Sannin looked about the table himself. I'm going to reveal a very special secret to all of you now. Something I have never spoken about to another human being. Though I have talked about it with some frogs. When I was a young man, I was summoned by the great and ancient sage Toad, who gave me a prophecy. He told me I would wander the earth and that one day one of my students would either bring the world peace or destroy it. He would be the destiny child, and his actions would decide the fate of the world. He paused, and the silence in the room was total. I have had total of 7 students in my life. The 3 in the Yondaime squad, 3 war orphans I ran into in Rain Country, and you, Naruto. You're the only one left. All the others are gone now. With what you've just said, I am now convinced that you are the destiny child and that you will either save the world and bring peace or cause it to be destroyed. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, one voice summed up what everyone was thinking. Man, what a drag. XXXXXXXXXXX. Shikamaru entered his home dragging his feet. He had been given a whole lot to think about. As was his habit, he had taken a few moments to quietly absorb the information and come up with the proper plan of action. That didn't mean he was eager to put his plan into action. He could hear both his mom and Tamari in the kitchen. Man, this is going to be troublesome. As he entered the kitchen, both women looked up. His mom was putting some chicken in a pan while Tamari was chopping some onions. Well, you're back late, Tamari stated. How was the council meeting? Very, very long and very, very troublesome. He moved over to Tamari's side. Anything you can share with us? Yoshino asked. Shikamaru shrugged. Only that the council acknowledged Naruto as Hokage except for Mishio, who resigned. He had already told them about Tsunade and about Naruto's being Hokage now, so it did not come as a shock to either of them. Mishioha, Tamari commented. I'm surprised it wasn't Ryuki. I'm not, Shikamaru said. Ryuki's not one for pointless gestures. He was standing right beside Tamari as she chopped onions. Tamari. She didn't look up from what she was doing. Yeah. Will you marry me? Her face jerked up as she very nearly cut off a finger by mistake. What? There was a loud crash as a tray full of chicken fell on the floor. Both women were now staring at him with open mouths. This got a roll of eyes from Shikamaru. I asked if you would marry me, you troublesome woman. She continued to just stare at him for a moment. Then without warning she balled up a fist and smacked him on the top of his head. Ow. He stepped away from her as he rubbed the top of his skull. What the hell was that for? I thought you'd be happy. She just glared at him. This is supposed to be one of the most romantic and memorable moments in a woman's life. And you just blurted out while I'm chopping onions. He continued rubbing his head. Fine then. If that's how you feel about it, forget I asked. He turned to go. Before he could take a step though, a kitchen knife sailed within an inch of his left ear and embedded itself in the kitchen door. He froze. Tamari was suddenly standing in front of him and he was expecting a real beating. To his immense relief though, she seemed to take a deep breath and calm down just a bit. Shikamaru, you can't ask something like that and then just take it back. Not unless you want me to smother you in your sleep tonight. She took a second deep breath. Now I want to know if you're serious. The way she was staring at him, it was obvious there was only one answer to that question that would allow him to remain alive. Of course I'm serious, I wouldn't be risking my life otherwise. She crossed her arms and looked at him suspiciously. Why now all of a sudden? I'm afraid the world might end soon and I don't want to die a virgin. He answered with a straight face. He saw her eyes darken and he knew he should have lied. Ow. He began to rub a second bump on his head. Damn it, woman, you're going to give me a concussion. Want to try answering that again? She growled. Fine, he muttered and quickly came up with something he hoped would be acceptable. The fifth was one of the most powerful ninjas in the world, a true ninja legend. And I saw her die just 3 days ago. If someone like Tsunade could be killed, then obviously it could happen to me anytime. Both Tamari and Yoshino nodded. Memories of Gaara, Kankuro, and Shikaku came to mind. I just decided that there was no good reason to keep waiting since I know I love you and want to be with you. Now a slight smile touched her lips. Well, I guess I can understand that. You still could have at least made an effort to be just a little romantic, but I guess that would be expecting too much from you. She put her arms around his neck and leaned in to give him a deep and long kiss. Both of them momentarily forgetting that Yoshino was standing right there. I know I'll probably regret this, you lazy baka, but the answer's yes. I will marry you. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto was in his room finally getting ready for bed. It had been a very long and stressful day and the next several were all going to be just as busy. He had on only shorts and a t-shirt and was about to go to bed when there was a knock on his door. Come in, he called out, assuming that it had to be his mom. So he was rather surprised when the door opened and in stepped Hinata wearing a beautiful pink and white kimono. She quickly shut the door behind her and gave him a demure little smile. Good evening, Naruto-kun. Naruto was suddenly very aware that he was wearing nothing but a flimsy t-shirt and his boxers. Hinata-chan, what are you doing here so late? He noticed how she was dressed and also that she had put her hair up. He even noticed that she had the fragrance of lilacs. Wow, you look beautiful. She smiled at him. Arigato, Naruto-kun. She seemed to glide across the floor to stand in front of him. Her pretty lavender eyes were looking up into his. He began to feel his heart beating faster and his temperature rising. She was standing so close to him. Hinata-chan, what are you doing here? She got up on her toes and leaned up to kiss him. When she settled back down on her heels, she began to slowly undo her kimono. I want to stay here with you tonight. He dry swallowed and his heart began to beat faster still. I thought you wanted to wait to, you know. I did, she replied calmly. But I don't anymore. After everything that's happened and knowing what may be coming, I've decided I don't want to wait anymore. I have loved you with my heart and soul, so I don't think it is wrong to love you with my body as well. She let her kimono fall to the floor. There was nothing on underneath. Naruto stared at her luscious body. She simply stood there without any shame, calmly displaying herself to him. Her body was all smooth and inviting curves, her skin pale and creamy. She looked exactly how a woman should look. He couldn't help himself, he put his hands on her and pulled her against himself. Your dad is going to kill me. Hinata giggled. No, he won't, Naruto-kun. I told him I wanted to stay at the Namikaze estate in order to help you with your duties as Hokage. I think he may suspect the truth, but since we're already betrothed, I don't think he would mind. He nodded, feeling relieved to know he or she wouldn't come looking for him in the morning. Then he had a horrible thought. What about my mom? Hinata smiled. I explained to her what I had in mind. She'll assign me my own room where I'll keep my things until the wedding. But I'll be spending all my nights here with you. Naruto paled, his lust momentarily forgotten. You mean mom knows about, he was too panicked to say it. Hinata calmly nodded. Naruto-kun, she would know anyway if we tried to keep it secret, you know she would. He could only nod and curse the phrase, protective surveillance, in his mind. This way we don't need to worry. And she's okay with you and me being, you know. Hinata took both his hands and began guiding him to the bed. She's fine with it. Hinata giggled. You're all right with this too, aren't you? She gave him a naughty smile. I mean, if you'd rather wait. She squeaked as Naruto pulled them both down onto the bed. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade's funeral would be held 2 days after the rescue party's return. Naruto's coronation would be 5 days after that. Naruto was amazed at the sheer volume of things that had to be done. He did not dress in the formal robes, that would wait until the coronation. But in every other way he was already acting as Hokage. One of his first decisions was to send an invitation to every cage of every nation, big or small. He already had some ideas about some radical changes in Konoha's foreign policy. He was pleased to learn that Mist and Lightning had accepted his invitation and would be sending their cages to his coronation, as would Sand and most of the minor powers. Earth and Rain countries were the only significant refusals. Along with trying to improve ties with foreign countries, he tried to meet privately with some of the council members and see if he could win some of them over. XXXXXXXXXX. Shizune knocked on the library door. Come in, Naruto called out. Shizune entered to see about a dozen Narutos sitting along a table making notes and going over various books and scrolls. Naruto, what are you doing? Shizune had been heartbroken to learn of Tsunade's death. Naruto had wanted to tell her the truth of what happened, but was too ashamed to. Though she was hurting, she offered to stay on and act as his assistant as she had for Tsunade. Naruto immediately and gratefully accepted her help. One of the Narutos, the original, looked up at her in surprise. What's wrong? I sent 5 clones to take care of all the paperwork. If there were an emergency, one of them would have dispelled to let me know. Shizune frowned at him. That's just it, Naruto. You're letting clones take care of your duties. He looked at her, obviously not seeing the problem. So? She shook her head. So most people don't like the idea of the real Hokage not being present to dispense his duties. Aunt Shizune, it's just paperwork. All my clones are doing right now is signing and stamping a bunch of papers. What I'm doing here is much more important. She looked at the impressive display that was all over the table. Just what exactly are you doing? I'm working on some new jutsus and new seals. I have a couple interesting ideas for variations on the Hiraishin. That seemed to impress her. You're creating new versions of that jutsu. He nodded. Yeah, and one other thing too. A special jutsu for a particular ninja I know. She shook her head. Naruto, I'm sure what you're working on will be impressive. But you need to work on it in your free time. Your duties as Hokage have to come first. He sent her a serious look. They do come first, Aunt Shizune. Everything I am working on here is vital to my future plans to protect Konoha. Trust me, I am doing the village a lot more good here than I would be just sitting at my desk signing and stamping papers. What about your other duties, like assigning missions and meeting with clients and important diplomats and ninja? My clones can handle assigning missions just fine. He saw her frown. They can. I'll still meet with clients and other people in person, as I know some of them would take it as an insult to talk to a clone. And of course, any real emergency that comes up, I'll immediately Hiraishin to the tower and take care of it. How is that? She frowned but nodded. It would be better if you were there in person the full time, but as long as all the work gets done, I suppose it will be all right. XXXXXXXXXX. The whole village seemed to attend the funeral of the Lady Tsunade. It was a day of mourning and no business would be conducted. Bells tolled mournfully through the day. Before her memorial, a long line of mourners came to pay respect and lay down a flower before a picture of her smiling face. XXXXXXXXXX. Jiraiya put down a flower. I always loved you, Tsunade, even when you were damn near killing me. I'm sorry we never got together. In my whole life there were only ever 2 men I was ever jealous of. Orochimaru, because he was the genius and the old man's favorite. And Dan, because he had your love. I hope that wherever you are now you're at peace and that Dan, Nawaki, and the old man are all there to keep you company. Goodbye, Tsunade, I love you. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina placed a flower down. I owe you more than I can ever repay you. You gave me back my son. Thank you, my dearest friend. I will honor you for the rest of my life. Rest in peace. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto placed down a flower and stood there looking at her image. I miss you so much, godmother. I would give up everything if you could be here now. I never wanted to be Hokage like this. I always wanted you to be there helping me. I'm so sorry for what I did. I know it was my fault and I know I can never make up for it. But I swear to you I will be the best Hokage I can be. I will give everything I have to protect this village. I swear I will make you proud of me. I won't let the sacrifice you made for me be for nothing. That's a promise, godmother. I love you. XXXXXXXXXX. 5 days later. He stood before the mirror staring at his image. You look very handsome, Naruto-kun. His mother spoke approvingly. Do you remember the first time I ever wore this? Of course, it was your first day at the academy. Naruto nodded and continued to look at his image in the mirror. He was wearing the white Hokage robes with the orange flames along the hem. The only thing missing was the hat. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember Sasuke telling me I was a pretender. Sasuke was an idiot, Kushina said flatly. Don't worry about what he thought or about what anyone else might think. You were never a pretender. He smiled at his mother. I wish Dad were here to see this. So do I, Naruto-kun. He would be very proud of you, son. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto-kun, you look so handsome. Hinata said happily. She was waiting for him in the living room along with all the others who would be making the walk to the tower with him today. All the people he had invited to attend the ceremony with him. Alyssa-chan was in her favorite pink dress jumping about and eager. Haku was there smiling. There was Kakashi, his niece-in. He leaned over and whispered to Hinata. Kakashi's here actually on time. I think we should be careful, the world might be ending today. Hinata covered her mouth as she giggled. Her father Hiashi was present as was Neji. Hanabi was there too as a favor to Hinata. Lee was giving him the good guy pose and his teeth were blinding. Shikamaru was there with his new fiancé standing close beside him. The Yamenka clan heir and new member of the council was standing a little ways off with her arm around Choji's. Naruto was sad to see that old resentments hadn't gone away. Gabriella and Tayuya were both talking to his mom. He really wasn't close to either girl, they were here at his mom's request. All of his family were present, of course. Grand Uncle Seishu, Uncle Shinzo and his wives including Anko. There were Shizune and Jiraiya both talking. Yamato was standing off a bit and chatting with Seishu. Kiba was trying to approach Tayuya without much success. Naruto couldn't help but smile at all the precious people he had in his life now. He wanted to protect them and their happiness. You ready to go, son? Kushina asked. He reached out and took Hinata's hand. Yeah, mom, let's go. XXXXXXXXXX. There were no glares as they all walked along the street. There were cheers and looks of respect. Naruto couldn't help but wonder if that was because he was Hokage now or because of who was traveling with him. Regardless, it felt good. XXXXXXXXXX. On New Year's Day 3 years before, he had stood atop the tower and listened to the cheers as his godmother became the god I'm Hokage. Now he stood there looking out onto a sea of faces. All of them looking up at him. This is what I have dreamed of my whole life. But I would give it up if you were here now, godmother. He slowly placed the hat upon his head and spoke in a loud, clear voice that carried down to the plaza below. From this day forward I shall protect and guard the village of Konoha. For I am the Rokudaime Hokage. There was a moment of silence as his words echoed through the plaza. And then it came. In one voice a thunderous cheer greeted him. It was the same wall of sound he remembered from 3 years before. He shut his eyes and let their cries of approval and joy wash over him. He had done it. He had achieved his lifelong ambition. Now the hard part started.